Chapter 196. The Soaring study was Qin Huayuan's residence before he got married. The collection of books there was very precious, and it was right next to the back garden. It could be said that every window opened was a beautiful view. It was an incomparable honor to be able to live in the Soaring study. Who would have thought that Qin Yining would be willing to share such a precious place and take the initiative to ask her sisters to live together? Qin Huayuan smiled with satisfaction. Sister Yi, that's a good idea. Seeing that Qin Huayuan had also nodded his head, the girls all became happy. Miss Liu pursed her lips awkwardly. She didn't find Qin Yining as annoying as she used to. Miss Liu and Miss Liu both smiled happily and thanked Qin Huayuan and Qin Yining. Miss Liu grabbed Qin Yining's hand and wouldn't let go. That's great. I already knew that fourth sister's place has a beautiful view and a lot of books. I don't want to live in an empty room. I want to live with fourth sister. Fourth sister also has a very cute little bunny. I want to touch the bunny too. Third madam burst into laughter. You little girl, I gave you an inch and you wanted a mile. Miss Liu blushed and stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. However, Qin Yining liked Miss Eight's straightforward and romantic character very much. She shook Miss Eight's hand and said, "Why can't I? If you like, we can live together." Then she smiled at Miss Liu and said, "Sixth sister and seventh sister, you can choose which room you want to live in later." Okay. Miss Liu beamed and nodded. Miss Liu, on the other hand, quickly looked up at Qin Yining and stammered, "Fourth sister, you haven't told me where Miss Huining lives." This was the first time Qin Yining heard Miss Liu call her fourth sister in such a straightforward tone. In the past, she and Qin Huayuan were on the same page and disdained this savage sister of hers the most. Now that she saw Miss Liu's expression and realized that she was still thinking about her good sister, she couldn't help but find it funny. After all, they were all young girls. Even if they had some devious thoughts, they wouldn't be so dark in their bones. However, she would not easily forgive someone like Qin Huaining, who was so black in the bones that no medicine could save her. Sixth sister, I understand what you mean. But Huaining Miss is a guest, and the rooms in my master's study are limited. If we live together and bring our own servants, I'm afraid we won't be able to squeeze in. The sixth young mistress pursed her lips. She knew that back then, in order to frame eldest aunt, Qin Huaining had actually made a voodoo doll to harm the old madam. At first, she felt that she could understand Qin Huaining's actions. However, after Qin Huaining went to the farmstead, she heard concubine Mother Lin say several times that Qin Huaining wasn't a good person and that he was using her as a tool. She had already begun to have doubts about Qin Huaining's character. Later on, she discovered that without Qin Huaining at home, her days were much more peaceful. Even her DI mother, who didn't like her, began to treat her kindly. Now that she had calmed down and witnessed so many things in the manor, she had a new understanding of Qin Yining, who Qin Huaining called a barbarian, untalented and uncultured, mean and harsh to her sisters. She didn't feel that Qin Yining was as abominable as Qin Huaining made him out to be. Although she didn't really like Qin Yining, she didn't hate him either. At the very least, she was still a person of flesh and blood who cared deeply about her family. Thus, when she heard Qin Yining's words, the sixth young mistress surprisingly didn't refute him. Everyone was a bit surprised by this. Second madam was very satisfied with her concubine's daughter's performance. She smiled and said, "This is very good. You sisters can live together and be close to each other. It can't be better if you can discuss things with each other." The most important thing was that everyone would gather together and not be separated like before. Not only would it be more convenient for the guards to protect them, if there were any sudden problems, they would be able to take care of each other in time. Qin Yining nodded. Qin Huayuan, second master, third master, first master Yu, and second master Han also began to discuss where they would live. Third master, third madam, and the concubines would live separately in Ci Xiao Garden's rear courtyard. Second master, second madam, and the concubines would live in the east wing and side rooms of Ci Xiao Garden's front courtyard. The 14-year-old fifth young master Qin Ding and his three younger cousins would live in the west wing of Ci Xiao Garden's front courtyard. Qin Han and Qin Yu had both married, so the young couple would each live in the east and west wing of Ci Xiao Garden's rear courtyard. Qin Huayuan and the members of the Sun Clan would live in the side rooms to the east of the old madam's main room. Cao Yuqing was also arranged to live in the side rooms to the west. The young ladies would live in the Shuoran Pavilion, which was separated from Ci Xiao Garden by a small road. This way, they wouldn't collide with each other. Qin Huayuan thought for a moment, then called Qin Yining to the side and said, "Now that the whole family is gathered together and Qin Huaining is allowed to come back, why don't you give her a place to live in the Shuoran Pavilion? If it wasn't for me instructing her birth father to come to the capital, perhaps her birth father wouldn't have been trampled to death by the refugees." Qin Yining was shocked upon hearing this. "You're saying that Qin Huaining's birth father is dead?" "Yen," Qin Huayuan said in a low voice, "I specially ordered people to search along the way and have already collected her birth father's body. Although her birth father was that kind of person and didn't have any feelings for Qin Huaining, if it wasn't for my instruction, she wouldn't have lost her birth father. In the end, I still feel a bit guilty towards her. Moreover, we're in a time of crisis right now. She's been surnamed Qin for more than 10 years. As your father, I don't want to throw her out to fend for herself. I know her character isn't good and you're worried that she'll lead the other sisters astray. However, with you here, she won't be able to make any waves. If she makes a mistake again, you should punish her. If not, I'm still here." "All right." Qin Yining smiled and nodded, "As long as father doesn't hate for me to punish her, then I'll listen to your arrangements." Qin Huayuan couldn't help but laugh. "Do you think you'll let her off lightly if I don't allow it? Right now, the world is in chaos. I don't want to deliberately make things difficult for her. As long as she knows her place and everyone keeps up appearances, it's fine." The father and daughter were chatting and laughing here. The two of them looked alike. If Qin Yining were to wear men's clothing, she would simply be a young version of wise Pan An. The current scene was different from the scene of father and son reprimanding each other, where one of them was strict and the other lowered her head to answer. The Sun Clan couldn't help but smile as they watched from the side. Second Madam and Third Madam were also envious and began to quietly tease them. When the father and daughter returned from their discussion, Third Madam smiled and said, "What are the father and daughter planning now?" Qin Huayuan smiled. "They're discussing with Sister Yi about arranging for Sister Hui to also live in the Shuoran Pavilion." Sister Yi was soft-hearted and agreed. As soon as he said this, everyone looked at Qin Yining in a different light. If other people's fathers encountered this kind of situation, they would probably just give a few instructions and leave it at that. However, Qin Huayuan only made this decision after discussing it with Qin Yining. It could be seen how much he cherished and respected this daughter of his. In addition, Qin Yining had recently shown her skills in managing the household and her sensitivity to political affairs. Not only did Second Madam and Third Madam think highly of her, but even her cousins also naturally looked up to her now. Everyone made arrangements to bring the people to move first. Third Master also hurried to the front courtyard to make arrangements for the servants to stay and to work. Right at this moment, the young maidservant, who was newly arranged to work at the second gate, rushed in. "Marquis, Marquis, someone from the palace has come to pass an oral order. His Majesty has ordered you to enter the palace immediately." The originally relaxed and happy scene was suddenly splashed with cold water by this sudden sentence. Everyone's expressions were very unsightly. Old Madam anxiously grabbed Qin Huayuan's hand. "Brother Meng, His Majesty, what does His Majesty want to do now? If you don't go, we won't go." Qin Huayuan comfortingly patted Old Madam's arm and said with a sigh, "His Majesty's oral order. How can I go against it?" In reality, he had already guessed that the Emperor would definitely look for him now that Shihua City had fallen. Qin Huayuan turned around to look at Qin Yining. Qin Yining said, "Father, don't worry. Leave the house to us. Please come back soon." "All right." Qin Huayuan smiled with relief, then turned around and left the inner residence. The womenfolk looked at each other in dismay, their hearts hanging in the air. Qin Yining was also worried, but he couldn't show it on his face. He only made arrangements for the people to move and personally led people to patrol the inner residence. He counted the things that weren't in use in the courtyard, locked them up, rearranged which kitchen to use, and arranged how the servants should be on duty, and other miscellaneous things. While Qin Yining was busy, Qin Huayuan had already changed his clothes and entered the palace. In the imperial study, the emperor fiercely threw the reports from the front lines to the ground with a heavy expression. Rice bucket, rice bucket. You're all a bunch of idiots who eat for nothing. Soldiers are trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single moment. What's the use of raising a bunch of rice buckets? The emperor was furious. Guozhong Cao, Qin Huayuan, Yu Qiyang, and Prince Ning all knelt down in unison and saluted. Your Majesty, please calm down. The eunuchs were already scared witless and hid in the courtyard. They didn't dare to approach for fear of being implicated. Calm down? How can I calm down by raising a bunch of idiots who don't do proper work? Pang Zhishi is simply a bastard. On our Dian, I treated him to good food and drinks, but he actually turned around and led his troops to attack us. He said that the Taytan people came to assassinate us. I think he's just using this opportunity to pick a fight. Qin Meng, this official is here. Qin Huayuan kowtowed in response. I told you to go negotiate, and this is how you negotiate. Can't you see that those scum from the Zhou dynasty are trying to cheat us of our money? Look, Shihua city has been occupied. Our east, north, and west roads have a total of 300,000 soldiers, but they were defeated by the Tiger Army's 100,000 soldiers. Is this because my generals don't know how to lead troops? Are you the only one in the world who knows how to lead troops? I think you're to blame for all of this. Since the start of the negotiation, you've made one wrong step. Now, every step is wrong. You still have the nerve to kneel here. The emperor became angrier as he spoke. He stood up and walked around the Polonia table covered with a bright yellow tablecloth. He rushed in front of Qin Huayuan and kicked him in the shoulder, sending Qin Huayuan rolling on the ground. Imperial father. Yu Qiyang hurriedly supported Qin Huayuan. Imperial father, please calm down. The people of Dazhou are crafty and crafty. Moreover, when we were negotiating, the Marquis of Anping had already reported the shortcomings to Imperial father. It was only because of Imperial father's decree that the Marquis of Anping signed the contract. Why is Imperial father blaming the Marquis of Anping for all of this? The people of Dazhou are treacherous. What does it have to do with the Marquis of Anping? Aren't you afraid that your meritorious servant will be bitterly disappointed by your actions? Chapter 197. Pa. With a crisp sound, Yu Qiyang's face was slapped to one side. Blood immediately trickled down from the corner of his cracked lips. Yu Qiyang supported the kneeling Qin Huayuan with both hands. He looked up in disbelief at the angry and panting emperor. For a moment, it was as if he didn't recognize this person. When the emperor punished the crown prince, he would reprimand and confine him. If he punished him, he would never hit his face. A slap to the crown prince's face was equivalent to shattering all of his dignity and prestige. How could the crown prince convince the people in front of him in the future? But the emperor, who was shocked and angry, didn't care about this at all. In the emperor's eyes, other than resentment towards the incompetence of his officials, there was only fear of the Zhou dynasty invading the capital. What else was there? I think you've been the crown prince for too long. You've become arrogant. Now you dare to yell at me in front of important officials. If you become the emperor in the future, your tail will stick up to the sky. At that time, where will you put me? The emperor was still angry. He grabbed an inkstone and threw it at Yu Qiyang. Fortunately, Prince Ning was a step faster. He stretched out his hand and caught the inkstone, which was the size of an adult man's palm, preventing Yu Qiyang's head from exploding on the spot. She did not dare to wipe off the ink stains on her sleeves, so she could only kowtow again with her forehead on the ground. Imperial brother, please calm down. Rebel, rebel. The emperor pointed at Ning Wang and flew into a rage. Imperial brother, the crown prince was careless. Moreover, you only have one son. If you hurt his life, won't Imperial brother be distressed? Ning Wang's advice was well-intentioned. The emperor originally didn't have many children. He only had the crown prince. If something happened to him in anger, who would inherit the throne in the future? But when the emperor heard this, he couldn't help but think about it. He looked at Ning Wang and wondered if he was mocking his ability in a certain area. Cao Guozhong saw that Ning Wang's words had distracted the emperor, so he brought the fire back to Qin Huayuan. Filled with righteous indignation, he said, "Emperor, please calm down. The crown prince has a pure and honest heart. Today, he offended the emperor. It must have been instigated and misled by a scoundrel. I hope the emperor can understand." Instigated by scoundrels? Who was the crown prince close to? And who was the one who taught the crown prince a while ago? It went without saying who the traitor was. The emperor looked at Qin Huayuan and huffed with a dark expression. He pointed at him with a trembling finger. After a moment, he fiercely flicked his sleeve. In the end, he did not continue to scold him. He turned to look at Cao Guozhong. Guozhong contacted the Taitan. Did he get any news? If there is still no news, I'm afraid the Zhu army will attack us. The emperor sat on the official's chair in frustration. Cao Guozhong's face turned ugly when he was questioned. He smiled apologetically and said, "Your Majesty, this subject has already tried my best to persuade the Taitan. It's just that something has happened to the Taitan recently." "What is it?" "I heard that the Taitan Khan was assassinated by his only son a few days ago." "What? His son killed his father?" When the emperor heard this, he subconsciously looked at Yu Qiyang. Cao Guozhong nodded and said, "Yes. It's said that the Taitan Khan took a fancy to his daughter-in-law and forced himself on her in public. His daughter-in-law was so ashamed that she committed suicide. His only son killed him in anger. Princess Ainari avenged her father and killed her brother. Now, the Taitan court is in the hands of Princess Ainari. The three factions of the Taitan court are currently fighting fiercely. This subject is worried that Princess Ainari won't have the time to send troops." When the emperor heard this, his brows tightly knitted together. It seems that that woman may not be able to hold on to that position steadily. "Guozhong, why didn't you find a good person to contact? What can a woman do?" The emperor impatiently complained. Cao Guozhong's face turned even uglier when he heard this. The emperor didn't have the ability. He didn't handle the matters of his own country well at a crucial time. He even needed to go all the way to Daeju to ask the Taitan for help. Now, he was complaining that the other party was a woman. Cao Guozhong sneered and said, "Your Majesty, please calm down. Right now, it doesn't matter if the Taitan ruler is a man or a woman. Our first priority is to convince them to send troops. Taitan and Daeju have been at war for many years. This old man doesn't believe that Daeju's treasury can support both sides of the battlefield. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lied to us. The reason why Daeju's emperor can attack us so fearlessly is because they have Jizayu guarding the north. Without Jizayu, the Tartars will definitely invade Great Zhu, and when that happens, Great Zhu will be attacked from both front and rear. With the valiant and fierce army of Great Yang, we will definitely be able to stop those Great Zhu soldiers outside the pass, and force them back to their own territory." Cao Guozhong's words were impassioned. The emperor's blood surged because of his words. It was as if he could already see Daeju's flag fluttering above the cities that he had abandoned. "It seems that I will have to trouble Guozhong to continue contacting the Taitan. As long as they are willing to send troops, our crisis will be resolved." The emperor stroked his beard with satisfaction. Cao Guozhong cupped his hands in acknowledgement. Qin Huayuan's brows were tightly knitted as he listened. He disagreed and said, "Your Majesty, please listen to this subject's words. Although Cao Guozhong's analysis is reasonable, the Taitan has a long way to go. Distant water cannot put out a nearby fire. Pang Zhish's art of war is godly. He is good at using sly tactics. His 100,000 Tiger Army soldiers are all brave and skilled in battle. Now that they have occupied Shihua City, which is geographically close to the capital, with Pang Zhish's bravery, if they wait for the Taitan to send troops to divert the Zhu dynasty's attention, the Tiger Army will probably invade. Right now, our eastern, western, and northern armies have a total of 300,000 soldiers gathered outside the city. In addition to the 5 barracks, 3,000 barracks, and the Godly Machine Battalion outside the city, we have a total of 350,000 soldiers. With our geographical advantage in the capital, if we choose an outstanding general to lead the troops, if the Tiger Army directly attacks the city, it is not impossible for us to win with our 350,000 soldiers. Without waiting for the emperor to reply, Cao Guozhong said mockingly, "Oh? Then according to the Marquis of Anping, Pang Zhishi is the god of war who has descended to the mortal world and is indestructible. Our Dian dynasty has the true dragon, the son of heaven, and the protection of the heavens. Why should we be afraid of a young boy? I think the Marquis of Anping treats Pang Zhishi as his son-in-law and praises him as if he is a flower." Qin Huayuan looked at Cao Guozhong with a frown. It was useless to argue with him. He only said, "If Lord Guozhong has a problem with me, you can solve it in private. In any case, I still have to call you father-in-law. You can beat me or scold me, but please do not mix your personal feelings into the court. Now is the Dian's life and death situation. This is not a joke." Cao Guozhong pointed at Qin Huayuan and was about to refute, but before he could say anything, he was interrupted by the emperor. "Stop arguing." Cao Guozhong and Qin Huayuan stopped talking and bowed. The emperor said angrily, "You can't handle serious matters well, but each of you is better than the other in bickering. I have raised you for so many years. Do you think I will see you fight among yourselves at critical times? Your Majesty, please calm down." Everyone bowed again. The emperor snorted coldly and said, "We will do as Guozhong says. Cao Guozhong, contact the Taitan as soon as possible." "Yes." Cao Guozhong bowed and then smiled proudly at Qin Huayuan. The emperor then said to Qin Huayuan, "Seeing that you have been cautious and conscientious for so many years, I will spare you for now. Go back and think about your past." Qin Huayuan's face was pale. He stared at the emperor, and the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. Finally, he put his forehead on the ground and said solemnly, "This official obeys the emperor's order." Ever since most of the servants left the Marquis's estate and everyone gathered in one place to live, no one panicked in the face of disaster. Instead, they felt that the hearts of the family were more united. There were a total of 39 servants in the inner residence, and each of them was responsible for their own master. Qin Yining did not have to do anything sooner or later. If there was anything, he could let these people make decisions on the spot. As a result, Qin Yining felt that it was much easier to manage such a small family than it was to manage the great family of the past. Ever since Qin Huayuan returned from the imperial palace that day, he began to close his doors and not go out. He spent his days either reading in his room, admiring the flowers and scenery by the pond in the back garden, or fishing by his own pond with an umbrella. A day passed in such a leisurely manner. In these years, Qin Huayuan had never been so relaxed. This time, the war was tense and the city was in chaos. However, Qin Huayuan found a sense of freedom that he had not felt for many years. Qin Yining knew that Qin Huayuan was full of pent-up frustrations that could not be released, so she often brought her books to Qin Huayuan after finishing her work. Sometimes, she would accompany him fishing, drink tea, and chat. Sometimes, she would ask Qin Huayuan to explain the contents of her books to her. Qin Huayuan was much more knowledgeable than Qin Yining's teacher. Not only did he cite classics, but he could also often use existing matters in the imperial court as examples. Moreover, his language was witty and humorous. Qin Yining, who often listened to him, was intoxicated by his words. Father and daughter often sat under the awning in the garden pavilion or by the fish pond for an entire day. This year, the state is in chaos. Father is also busy. I did not manage to properly organize your birthday. For the time being, I will not be able to arrange your hairpin ceremony. Qin Huayuan sat on the cross-legged chair. Wearing a silk gown and a straw hat, he held a fishing rod in his hand and spoke with a smile. Upon hearing this, Qin Yining laughed and said, "In previous years, I did not celebrate my birthday. This year, on the 5th day of June, I ate longevity noodles. As for the hairpin ceremony, there is no hurry. In any case, before I turn 20, it will be the same no matter when I do it. Since ancient times, a girl could have her hairpin ceremony when she turned 15. However, it did not necessarily have to be held at 15. As long as it was held before she turned 20, it would be the same no matter when she did it." Qin Huayuan laughed and said, "That's true. It will be the same when you have your engagement ceremony." Engagement. Suddenly, Pang Xiao's masculine and handsome face appeared in Qin Yining's mind. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. In this situation, was it still possible for her and Pang Xiao to be together? Miss. Song Lan trotted over from outside. Qin Yining and Qin Huayuan both smiled and looked over. Song Lan bowed and said, Miss, Master Zhong is here. He is in the side hall right now. This servant saw that Master Zhong's expression was not very good. Upon hearing this, Qin Yining stood up and said, Father, I will go and take a look. Perhaps it is about Ning Garden. Millimeter, go ahead. Qin Huayuan responded lazily and continued to focus on his fishing rod. Chapter 198. When Qin Yining arrived at the side hall, Master Zhong was pacing around with a serious expression. When he saw Qin Yining enter, he immediately walked over and said anxiously, Boss, something bad has happened. What's the matter? Sit down and tell me slowly. Qin Yining led Master Zhong to a seat. Song Lan served them tea and left. Master Zhong didn't care about etiquette. He drank half a bowl of tea to soothe his throat, which was about to spit fire. Recently, there are more and more people running away from the city. The people who mortgaged their properties and shops to ask for a loan all abandoned their houses and ran away. I took people to go door to door to look for them, but none of them followed the rules. They only stayed to look after their houses. Most of them left letters and deeds for their houses and land. Qin Yining was stunned. He took a stack of letters from Master Zhong and flipped through them. The meaning of the letters was similar. Those people didn't care if the money they borrowed could cover the price of their shops and houses. Because there was an emergency at home, or because of other reasons, they were in a hurry to leave the capital. The money they borrowed was used by Qin Yining to buy their shops and houses. Those shops and houses belonged to Qin Yining. What was this? Forced to buy and sell? In peaceful times, where could he find such a good deal? Not to mention the dozens of house and land deeds in his hands, even if Qin Yining wanted to buy one of them, he would have to spend a lot of effort. According to the calculation method in peaceful times, Qin Yining got a great deal, but the problem was that in this world, a shopfront wasn't worth anything at all. With the Tiger Army's brutal behavior in Shihua City, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't rush into the capital in the future. What if the capital was broken and the Tiger Army burned, killed, and looted in the city? Shops and houses were inanimate objects. These people fled with their families. They couldn't take their houses and land with them, but they could take their money with them. When they went to a new place, they could still count on the money to support their families. But what use did Qin Yining have for so many inanimate objects in the capital? They couldn't be eaten or used. If the people of Daju attacked, they would burn everything down. No wonder Master Zhong was so anxious. Qin Yining sighed faintly. This is the way of the world. It's useless to be anxious. Think on the bright side. At least we still have these shops and houses. In the past, if I had so many shops and houses, I wouldn't be able to use them all for the rest of my life. Master, you're still able to joke at this time. Great shopkeeper Zhong sighed and said, Boss, you haven't gone out to take a look these days. Not to mention that these merchants have foresight and have chosen to escape with the money in advance. Even the common people are selling their houses and land to leave. There are many large estates in the outskirts of the city that are selling to the outside world. But now that the world is in chaos, who doesn't know to save some money to escape? Who wants those crops that can't be eaten or used? Shopkeeper Zhong shook his head and pointed in the direction of the great Zhu dynasty as he cursed, Say, that group of bastards, how can they be so untrustworthy? We had a good negotiation and even signed the contract. We had to cede land and pay compensation so that the common people could have a few days of peace. Now that we've paid the money and paid the compensation, they actually turned hostile and refused to acknowledge us. Yes, our emperor is incompetent and muddle-headed, but the emperor is a bastard. What are the common people guilty of? Right now, the common people are selling their land to escape. I think it won't be long before they'll be selling their children, their daughters, and their wives. Qin Yining naturally knew what kind of life the common people were living in the chaos of war. Not only were the enemy troops abominable, Those bandits who couldn't eat and became bandits were even more abominable than the enemy troops. They committed all kinds of crimes, burning, killing, and raping. It really scared people to the point where they didn't even dare to close their eyes when they slept. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had to hide in the mountains alone. Master Zhong, right now the world is so chaotic. Have you made arrangements for your family's affairs? Master Zhong nodded and said, I've already ordered my son to make arrangements for a retreat. That's good. Regardless of the outcome of this war, it's never a bad thing to make preparations in advance. Master Zhong, why don't you head south to lie low for a while? If the capital is safe, then it's naturally good. You can come back whenever you want. If something really happens, then you can avoid disaster. Right now, the capital hasn't reached the level of martial law yet. It's better to take advantage of this opportunity to leave quickly. If Daju's soldiers really come to the city, it won't be so easy to escape. Master Zhong is a smart person. He should have made arrangements for his family long ago. Shopkeeper Zhong nodded his head repeatedly, and said emotionally, it's rare for the owner to be so kind. This old man has heard from someone that the owner released the servants in the mansion, and gave them money to let them escape. Right now, many people praise the benevolence of the Marquis of Anping's manor. It's just that the emperor has eyes but can't see, treating the Marquis of Anping like that. Qin Yining waved his hand and said helplessly, thunder and rain are all the grace of the emperor. My father is wholeheartedly loyal, so he naturally has to accept it. I just don't want to implicate innocent people. Since they've decided to leave, I don't need to force them to stay. Right now, since Master Zhong's family has been made arrangements, when the time is right, you should also leave the capital with your children. During this time, Master Zhong can start handing over the accounts to me. Master Zhong purposely didn't answer because he wanted to avoid this question. However, Qin Yining was wholeheartedly concerned about him, so he had no choice but to face the current situation. Master, it's easy for me to leave, but what about you? Me? Qin Yining smiled slightly. I am the daughter of the family Qin. Even if the sky collapses in the Dian, I will still stay in the capital to advance and retreat together with my father. Qin Yining stood up and walked to the back window. He looked at the lush green grass and the lush green forest outside. A few sparrows were perched on the grass, chirping happily. He didn't know if he would be able to see such a peaceful scene in the future. Thinking of the commoners in the city who had to run for their lives and had no money, Qin Yining thought for a moment and said, Head shopkeeper, I have one last thing to trouble you with. After you make the arrangements, I can leave the capital with my family. Master Zhong asked in confusion, what orders does Master have? The money I have, after using it to feed the refugees in Ning Garden, should still have some left, right? Master Zhong nodded and said, the property that Duchess Ding left for Master was a large sum. Master only spent 10,000 taels. Even if you use all your strength, how much can you use? Yes, it's good to have some left. Since the commoners in the city have sold their land and fled, Master Zhong, give the order to have people secretly purchase those lands. What? Master Zhong stood up in shock. Master, the land they sold is the same as the houses left behind by the people who took out mortgages. It's useless to you. Once the city falls, those lands will become wastelands. At that time, we won't even know who the country belongs to, let alone those lands that no one cultivate. If Master spends this money, then it's all for naught. I understand what the head shopkeeper is saying. Qin Yining turned around and said with a smile, but I just don't want to benefit the Zhou dynasty's emperor. Master Zhong was stunned. If the Dian falls, the country will no longer be a country, and the family will no longer be a family. Not to mention my Zhaoyun agency, even the entire family Qin and the entire Yang dynasty's treasury will fall into the hands of the Zhou dynasty's emperor. I don't have the final say in the country's treasury. The family Qin doesn't have much money, and it's not up to me to decide. But my own money, even if I throw it away, I don't want to benefit the Zhou dynasty's emperor. Master. Master Zhong suddenly felt that his eyes were hot, his nose was sour, and his tears were almost flowing out. I definitely can't run away. Once the country falls, my things will become the Zhou dynasty's. While the money is still under my control, it's better to give it to the commoners to escape. It's also used on the commoners of the Yang dynasty, so it's not a waste. Otherwise, in the future, if the Zhou dynasty's emperor benefits for no reason, then my heart will really ache. Master is so righteous. Master Zhong cupped his hands in admiration. In an instant, he seemed to have made up his mind. All right, since Master has decided, then leave this matter to me. Qin Yining smiled and said, remember, this matter can't be publicized. It has to be arranged step by step so that people can't find out that it's me. Why doesn't Master take this opportunity to gain more fame? You're really working for the commoners. Qin Yining pointed to the top of his head and said with a smile, don't forget, the emperor has been watching my Zhaoyun agency. If he finds out, won't he snatch it back in anger? Then we won't be able to do anything. Master Zhong was full of anger when he thought of the incapable emperor. But he was just a commoner, and there was no other way. The only thing he could do now was to maximize the use of Qin Yining's money. All right, Master, don't worry. I'll definitely arrange it properly. Even if they investigate, they won't be able to trace it back to us. Thank you for your trouble, head shopkeeper. I think this matter will be completed in about 3 to 5 days. When the money has been spent, you can give me the deed to the house, land, and fields. Then you can leave with your family. Master Zhong looked at Qin Yining's sincere smile and shook his head. He cupped his hands in farewell and turned to leave. Qin Yining watched Master Zhong leave, then returned to the fish pond and continued to chat with Qin Huayuan. 5 days passed like this, and it was almost July. There was little rain this year, and the weather was hot. The sun was scorching day by day, and it was so hot that it made one's heart feel stuffy. On this day, Qin Yining hugged Bai and was about to take an afternoon nap when Song Lan walked in quickly and said in a low voice, Miss, Master Zhong is here. Qin Yining was stunned. He quickly got up, tied up his hair, and went downstairs. He went straight to the side hall in the front yard. Master Zhong's forehead was still covered in sweat, and his face was oily. In just 5 days, he had tanned a little, but he looked very energetic. Why is head shopkeeper here at this time? Have you used up all the money? Master Zhong said, Master, someone wants to do a big business with us. I can't be sure, so I hurried over to pick you up. Qin Yining was stunned and said, what kind of business can there be at this time? Master Zhong's eyes were bright. Qin Yining could tell from his expression that he was excited. Chapter 199. Qin Yining asked curiously, who is it that wants to buy those useless stores? Master Zhong's eyes shone with excitement. Boss, come with me. You'll know when you see them. Oh, right, you can only bring your trusted people with you. Qin Yining saw Master Zhong like this and couldn't help but narrow his eyes suspiciously. However, out of his trust in him, he still nodded and said, all right, I understand. She only called for Bing Tang and Ji Yun. Then she and Master Zhong left the Marquis Fu and took a carriage to the north of the city. Who is the head shopkeeper talking about? Qin Yining couldn't help but ask curiously in the carriage. Master Zhong only smiled when he heard this. Won't you know when you get there, boss? His secretive and excited expression was completely different from the worried expression he had a few days ago. This made Qin Yining even more curious. Could it be that Master Zhong was just happy because someone wanted to buy the stores and residences that she had cheated? The carriage traveled the entire way and exited the inner city gates to the outer city. This place was much quieter than the inner city. On a summer afternoon, when the sun was high in the sky, the official road was covered in dust. Fortunately, when the carriage was moving, there was still wind blowing into the carriage to relieve some of the heat. Qin Yining lifted the curtains and looked outside. He could see people carrying backpacks or driving donkey carts in groups of 3 to 5 heading towards the inner city gates. These people were all covered in dust and had worried expressions. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. His originally light-hearted mood could no longer be lifted after seeing such a scene. In the face of war, people would truly understand how precious peace was. Just like the women in the family. In the past, they would be calculative with anyone for a bowl of bird's nest. They would ridicule each other when they saw each other. Now, they didn't care so much. It was as if they were trying their best to cherish the happy days. The whole family was very harmonious. Even Qin Huaining, who used to be the most troublemaker, had become gentle and quiet. Master Zhong saw Qin Yining's serious expression and guessed why she was upset. He could only remain silent. Not long after, the carriage stopped outside the wooden fence of a manor in a remote part of the city. Master Zhong got out of the carriage and carefully observed the surroundings. Seeing that nothing was out of the ordinary, he ordered the carriage driver to drive the carriage directly into the courtyard. After the wooden door was closed, Bing Tang and Ji Yun jumped out of the carriage and helped Qin Yining down. Qin Yining straightened out her skirt and asked with a smile, "Why did you choose such a place to discuss business? The other party's identity is special and it is not convenient to discuss in our building. However, don't worry, boss. I have arranged everything properly. Please come in." Master Zhong smiled as he led Qin Yining through the spacious courtyard toward the 3 thatched huts in the center. Bing Tang followed behind while fanning himself. Ji Yun was very alert and carefully observed the movements in the surroundings as they walked. Qin Yining was very familiar with this kind of house. When she was young, she would be extremely envious of any family who lived in such a neat house and had such a large courtyard. Although she had enjoyed life in the Marquis Fu for a while, the residence that left the deepest impression on her was the cave she lived in on the mountain and the thatched hut she built herself. Now, this manor's courtyard made her feel very secure. When they reached the door, Master Zhong first lifted the brown-yellow curtain made of coarse cloth. "Boss, please come in." Qin Yining nodded with a smile and stepped through the threshold. There was a wooden square table in the central room facing the door. There were benches and small stools scattered around the room. Brown-yellow curtains made of coarse cloth hung halfway in front of the door on the left and right sides of the room. Based on the shadows on the ground, there should be someone in the room on the right. As expected, Master Zhong went to the right. He said sorry for disturbing you in front of the door and lifted the curtain to invite Qin Yining in. Qin Yining did not suspect anything. Unexpectedly, as soon as she leaned in, a large hand suddenly reached out diagonally from the front and pulled her into an embrace. Before Qin Yining could cry out in alarm, she was pressed against the wall. Her eyes were covered and her lips were passionately covered. Qin Yining was really scared out of her wits. She punched the person in front of her with both hands and kicked her legs wildly. She could not stop whimpering for help. However, the person was very strong. His palm pressed her against the wall like an iron clamp. One of his legs pressed down on her, and her legs kicked wildly without any effort at all. What was even more frightening was that Master Zhong, Ji Yun, and Bing Tang outside the door did not react at all. However, the person in front of her was getting more and more eager. His strong tongue was trying to invade her mouth. In a moment of desperation, Qin Yining deliberately let go of her teeth. When the person's tongue reached over, she fiercely bit it. "Hiss! Are you trying to murder your own husband?" Qin Yining was stunned when she heard this. The large hands covering her eyes loosened. In a blur, she saw Pang Xiao's familiar long eyebrows and almond-shaped eyes. Under the high bridge of his nose, the corners of his captivating red lips were stained with blood. This person's face was very close to hers. Their breaths intertwined. He changed his grip and held her waist with both hands. Then, he bent down and kissed her fiercely on the cheek. "It's been so long since we last met that you can't even taste me anymore? It seems like I didn't leave a deep enough impression on you last time." Pang Xiao smiled mischievously and pressed his face against hers again. You. Qin Yining raised her hand and gave him a slap. "Pa." The crisp sound made Huzi, who was guarding the door, grin. Pang Xiao was not angry at all after the slap. He only felt that the person in his arms was fragrant and soft. She was like a warm, fragrant, and soft jade nestled against his chest. Even the way she stretched out her hand to slap people was extremely similar to the fluffy and soft erbai. Her eyes, which were filled with anger and mist, were wide and round. Her eyelashes were fluttering. His heart melted just looking at her. No wonder there was a saying, "Spring nights are short and the sun rises high." From now on, the emperor will not attend court early. This kind of beauty was simply asking for his life. "Are you scared? Does your hand hurt?" Pang Xiao intimately rubbed the tip of his nose against Qin Yining's. Qin Yining was so angry that tears welled up in her eyes. Just now, she really thought that she had been set up. She thought that Master Zhong had somehow betrayed her and tricked her into handing her over to some evil person. Even now, her heart was still beating wildly in fear. Seeing that Qin Yining did not speak, Pang Xiao bent down to look at her carefully. When he saw that she was about to cry but was holding back her tears, Pang Xiao's heart ached terribly. He hugged her and shook her. "Did I really scare you? I was just teasing you. Why don't you hit me a few more times?" He grabbed her hand and pressed it against his stubbled handsome face. Then, hit me here. I'll hit you, okay? Who wants to hit you?" Huzi, who was outside the door, shivered and had goosebumps all over his body. This shameless person who stretched his right cheek after being hit on the left was actually his Wang Yi. He could not bear to look at it. He immediately got up and pulled the red-faced Bing Tang to the side to talk. Ji Yun and Master Zhong also walked away awkwardly. Qin Yining took a few deep breaths, but she could not hold back her tears. Ever since they parted, first, she was almost eaten by the Empress. Then, there were all kinds of things happening at home. Her father was arrested, and she had to scheme in every possible way. She had to manage the household and take care of thousands of refugees. At the crucial moment, the servants in the residence even quit their jobs. Although she was adaptable and steady in her schemes, no one knew how tormented her heart was. Now that she was facing Pang Xiao, for some reason, the tight strings in her heart suddenly loosened. She was like a child who had been wronged. Her tears rubbed against his shoulder. Okay, don't cry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have scared you like this. How about you hit me? I'll hit you." Pang Xiao was flustered by her crying. He sat on the wooden bed at the side and hugged her to sit on his lap. He hurriedly wiped her tears. Chapter 200. Qin Yining's face turned red from the coarse clothes he was wearing. Only now did he notice what Pang Xiao was wearing. He was wearing an indigo coarse robe with patches on the sleeves. His hair was tied up in a bun at the back of his head. His hair was a bit messy, and he was carrying a tattered straw hat on his back. "You dare to come to the capital at a time like this?" Qin Yining stopped crying and angrily glared at him. Pang Xiao hugged her with one hand and held her wrist with the other. His thumb gently rubbed the red bean bracelet on her wrist as he smiled, revealing his white teeth. "I missed you, so I came to see you. Also, I came to do some business and save some money for my marriage." Qin Yining snorted. "Aren't you afraid that I'll hand you over right now? I don't know how much merit I'll get if I hand you over to our emperor. Are you willing to do that?" Pang Xiao brought her hand to his lips and kissed it. His blood-stained and slightly dry lips brushed against her fingers, and then the tip of his tongue swept across the bracelet on her wrist. That kind of soft and itchy feeling made Qin Yining's entire body tremble as if he had been scalded. "What are you doing? I haven't seen you in so many days, and I'm not even allowed to kiss you. To tell you the truth, if I had given you a choice, would you have sent me out?" Qin Yining stared at him with slightly red eyes. She had deliberately avoided this topic, didn't want to think about it, and didn't want to talk about it. How could he so calmly ask about it? Pang Xiao looked at those bright red eyes and sighed. "I'm just afraid that you're thinking too much. I know that because of your father, you've already forgotten how much suffering you've suffered outside. The country in your heart has never protected you, and the emperor in your heart is an incapable ruler." "I know all of what you're saying." Qin Yining interrupted Pang Xiao's words and looked up at his face that was inches away from hers. "The emperor is incapable, and the country is corrupt. Do we deserve to be invaded by foreign enemies? Sister Yi, do you know what kind of life the common people are living now? Earlier, I sold all the valuables in Ning Garden, and spent a lot of money. Only then was I barely able to support 1,800 people and prevent them from starving to death. But there are still so many commoners outside who have no home to return to. This year, the weather wasn't favorable, and there was no way to farm due to the chaos of war. Many people had to leave their homes. Now, everyone was selling their houses and land to escape. It wouldn't be long before there would be people selling their sons, daughters, and wives. This is all caused by you people from Da Ju. Pang Zhishi, I really should hand you over to the emperor, Qin Yining said ruthlessly, but he couldn't stop his tears from falling again. Pang Xiao kissed her forehead, held her in his arms, and stroked her hair with his big hands. If you were willing, I would have been handed over a long time ago. You have Miss Tang by your side, and she knows how to use poison. You are also resourceful, and I am not guarded against you. Don't you have many opportunities to harm me? Qin Yining gave up on herself and buried her face in his arms, refusing to say anything. If she was torn between her country's righteousness and her personal feelings, she would break down. But you have to know that the reason why I went to war was to end this chaotic world. Qin Yining's heart trembled when she heard this, and she raised her head to look at him. Pang Xiao wiped her face with his sleeve and said, the sooner we end this chaotic world, the sooner the common people will have a day of peace. Previously, when we were fighting BG, I thought this way. Now that we are fighting Dian, I still think this way. Once the world is unified, there will be at least 100 years of peace, right? Although many people die in war, for the sake of a day when the country is prosperous and the common people live in peace, the sacrifice now is nothing. The people who die are sacrificed for the sake of a better future for everyone in the world. Even if you want my life one day, I won't hesitate. Qin Yining lowered her eyes and leaned on his shoulder again, quietly thinking about what he said just now. Perhaps, for everyone in the world, it was best to unify the country and bring peace to the world as soon as possible. She thought that because she was from the Yang dynasty, she hated the invasion of the Da Ju people. But she didn't expect that Pang Xiao didn't go to war for plunder. He went to war for the whole world. He didn't care about his country, but the common people of the world. Qin Yining didn't doubt the truth of Pang Xiao's words at all. Compared to him, she was too narrow-minded. Pang Xiao saw that she was obediently leaning on him, and he knew that she didn't have the same resentment as before. With a beauty in his arms, it wasn't his style if he didn't take the opportunity to touch and kiss her. While she was thinking, Pang Xiao kissed her cheeks and snow-white neck. He buried his face in her hair and breathed in the faint jasmine fragrance on her body. He didn't want to raise his head. His hot breath fell on her neck, causing Qin Yining to come back to her senses. She quickly pushed him away and jumped down from his lap. She blushed and said, "It's such a hot day. Don't you think it's hot?" Pang Xiao was indeed very hot. All the heat in his body was rushing to a certain part of his body. It was very difficult for him to endure it, so he didn't stop her when she walked to the side. Qin Yining held the fan and waved it vigorously a few times. Then she suddenly remembered the purpose of her visit today. "You came to buy a shop?" "Yes. I originally sent people to the capital to secretly gather information and wanted to buy some property. Who knew that I would get in touch with Master Zhong?" Qin Yining narrowed her eyes and thought for a moment. She suddenly realized something and said, "You're too cunning. What's wrong? The real situation in Shihua City must not be like the rumors in the capital. You didn't massacre the people in the city, right?" "Yes. I only killed some landlords who specialized in exploiting the people's wealth and corrupt officials who caused chaos. But you beheaded them in public and spread the news that you were about to massacre the people in the city." Qin Yining leaned over and patted his head with the fan. "You're so cunning. Aren't you trying to amass wealth? No wonder Master Zhong was so happy. You, the commander of the enemy army, are going to buy a house and buy property in the capital. That means that when you really attack in the future, you won't burn down houses and kill people. You'll ensure that the capital operates normally. Isn't that obvious?" Pang Xiao laughed. "I'm not a homicidal maniac. Do you think I'm going to war just to kill people? Conquering Dian and incorporating Da Ju into the territory of Dian was also to develop the economy and let the people live better lives." Pang Xiao shook her head and clicked her tongue. "It seems that you still don't know me well enough. You're actually affected by those rumors and slander and think of me as a murderous demon." Qin Yining said, "You think that way, but it doesn't mean that your emperor thinks the same way." Pang Xiao was silent for a moment. Both of them thought of the time when the emperor of Ju ordered Pang Xiao to massacre the people in the city. Pang Xiao disobeyed the order and was stripped of his position as the Grand Marshal by the Emperor of Ju. Pang Xiao supported his chin with one hand and looked at her with a smile. "Are you worried about me?" Qin Yining was stunned and her face turned even redder. "No." Again, no? Qin Yining felt uncomfortable being stared at by him, so she simply turned around and looked away. Pang Xiao was amused by her appearance and didn't want to provoke her anymore. He took her hand and said, "Come, let's eat first. I've prepared food." Qin Yining said in surprise, "You've prepared food?" Chapter 201. Naturally, she knew about his past. After this person barged into her life in a domineering manner, she realized that she did not hate him and did not even want to reject him. Therefore, she tried to find out more about his past. She found out that he was forced to join the army and that he grew up under the protection of his grandfather's family. However, just because his grandfather owned a restaurant, it did not mean that Pang Xiao knew how to cook. This tall man had always been domineering. If someone said that he knew how to scheme and kill, she would believe it. However, she could not imagine what this person would be like when he cooked. Pang Xiao pulled her to the kitchen at the back. As soon as they reached the door, they could smell a special aroma. "Is this beef?" "Yes. The weather is hot, so I prepared beef shank in advance. I boiled the soup and let it cool down. You can eat the cold noodles I cooked later." As they spoke, the two of them entered the kitchen. Qin Yining saw that there was a pot on the chopping board with a piece of dough inside. Pang Xiao scooped some water from the pot and washed his hands. He lifted the wooden lid of the big iron pot and filled it with water. He smiled and said, "Wait a moment. The stove is ready. We'll be able to eat soon." Qin Yining leaned against the door of the kitchen and watched Pang Xiao neatly pull the noodles. Finally, he watched as his large hands stretched the noodles into even strips. The water in the pot was already boiling. Pang Xiao pinched off the ends of the noodles and placed the even strips into the pot. The boiling water calmed down after the noodles were placed in the pot. Pang Xiao stirred the water with a long spoon, then prepared 2 basins of cold water. She took out cucumbers and pears, washed them, and cut them into even slices. Then, she took out a piece of marinated beef from the pot and cut it into thin slices. She also cut a few slices of watermelon for later use. Qin Yining noticed that Pang Xiao's hands and feet were very nimble, and his knife skills were also very good. It was obvious that he had done this often in the past, and he really did have the qualities of a chef. It didn't take long for the noodles to be ready. He soaked the noodles twice in cold water and put them into 2 rough but clean pottery bowls. He then took out the pot that had been soaking in the well water. Inside the pot was a bowl of beef cold noodle soup. Pang Xiao picked out the scallions and ginger slices from the soup and poured the soup over the noodles. He then placed the shredded cucumber and pear slices evenly on the noodles. He then placed the triangular slices of watermelon and beef slices on the other side. Finally, he sprinkled some coriander and sesame seeds on the noodles and placed the noodles on the table in the outer room. "Come, try my cooking." Pang Xiao handed a pair of chopsticks to Qin Yining with a smile. Qin Yining was already stunned by Pang Xiao's nimble hands and the bowl of cold noodles in front of her, which looked, smelled, and tasted good. The noodles in the rough pottery bowl were finely balanced, and the fragrance of the broth assailed her nostrils. The color of the broth was clear, and the combination of the dark green shredded cucumber, snow-white shredded pear slices, red watermelon slices, and the tender beef slices made her feel appetizing. Qin Yining tasted a mouthful of the broth. It was refreshing, and there was no fishy smell of meat at all. Instead, there was a fragrance of vegetables, fruits, and marinated beef. She ate a mouthful of noodles. It was chewy, but not too hard. Moreover, the thin noodles were very tasty. She ate another mouthful of cucumber, pear, watermelon, and drank a mouthful of soup. Qin Yining felt that the heat of the summer had dissipated in these few mouthfuls of noodles. Before she knew it, she had eaten half a bowl of soup and noodles. Pang Xiao held a large pottery bowl in one hand and used a pair of chopsticks to eat the noodles. She couldn't help but look over the edge of the bowl to observe Qin Yining. Although she ate delicately, her eyes were curved into crescents, indicating that she liked the noodles very much. Pang Xiao felt even happier. Qin Yining had been worried about her family's affairs these days. In addition to the hot summer, she usually didn't have much of an appetite. This meal was the most filling she had ever eaten. However, the bowl was too big, so she still couldn't finish it. Pang Xiao saw that she only had half a bowl of noodles left. She put down her empty bowl and asked, "What's wrong? Is the noodles not to your taste?" "No, they taste very good. I like them very much. It's just that I can't eat anymore." Qin Yining looked at Pang Xiao with sparkling eyes. "I didn't expect your cooking to be so good. It's nothing. Time is tight, so I can only cook some noodles to fool you. When I have time next time, and I have all the ingredients, I'll cook something good for you." Pang Xiao naturally took the half bowl of noodles left by Qin Yining and started eating. Qin Yining raised her hand to stop her, but it stopped in mid-air. "That's my leftovers." Pang Xiao put down the bowl and smiled. "What are you afraid of? Have you eaten watermelon? It's been in the well for a while now. It's still cold." He got up and took a kitchen knife. In a few moments, he chopped the watermelon into several pieces. He turned back to look at Qin Yining, who was sitting on the bench as beautiful as a painting. He cut a few more times and handed a piece of watermelon that was just the right size for Qin Yining to bite. "Thank you." Qin Yining took the watermelon with both hands and took a bite. The weather was dry this year, so the watermelon with sandy pulp was extremely sweet. Pang Xiao sat on the bench opposite Qin Yining with his legs spread apart. He looked at her while eating the watermelon. His mouth was full, but he did not forget to smile at her even though his cheeks were puffed up. For some reason, Qin Yining's mood became especially light. His good appetite made him eat 2 more pieces of watermelon. After the meal, Pang Xiao fetched a basin of water for Qin Yining to wash his hands. He used the water that she used to wash his face. Qin Yining watched him from the side. He really had the illusion that they were a family, just an ordinary family. Pang Xiao wiped his face. The hair on his temples was wet, so he casually brushed it back and said with a smile, "Sister Yi, do you think my culinary skills are good?" Qin Yining nodded and praised him seriously. "Your culinary skills are excellent. You're even better than my family's cook. Compared to you, I'm much worse. To be honest, the only thing I'm good at is barbecued meat. Because I used to eat barbecued meat a lot, I learned a little when I went back, but it's barely edible." Pang Xiao laughed. "Don't be afraid. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to cook. I'll cook for you in the future." Qin Yining was infected by his smile and almost blurted out the word good. However, he immediately understood the deeper meaning of his words. His face immediately turned red. This man was willing to take the risk to visit her. He never put on Wang Yi's airs in front of her. He cared for her so much, was willing to eat her leftovers, and was willing to use the water that she used to wash. They were like a family. She might really be tied to him for the rest of her life. On second thought, in the eyes of outsiders, her reputation and integrity had long been given to this man. Besides, they had kissed and hugged. She really could only belong to him. Even if she didn't consider this, it would be difficult for her to repay him for saving her life several times. The more Qin Yining thought about it, the redder her face became. Even her neck and ears were completely red. Pang Xiao couldn't help but laugh when he saw her like this. He pulled her into his arms. "What's wrong with our sister Yi? Could it be that she's been cooked? Otherwise, why is she all red?" Qin Yining chuckled and hit him. "What are you talking about? I'm not a shrimp. Aren't you? Let me have a taste." Pang Xiao smiled and pretended to bite her face, but she gently pushed him away. "Stop fooling around. Don't we still have serious matters to attend to? There's no hurry. Since we know the origins of those shops, doing business will be easy. It wasn't easy for us to meet, and we don't know when we'll meet again. I can't always come to see you. The war is getting more and more intense, so it's even harder for me to come. Let me hug you for a while longer, okay? What is this person saying? He's simply shameless. What are you doing? We're not even married yet. So you're saying that as long as we get married, you can let me do whatever I want?" Pang Xiao looked at her with his bright phoenix eyes. Qin Yining was stunned and even forgot to struggle. After a while, she said, Who said I'm going to marry you? TSK. Our sister Yi is really a bad person. She ate my noodles and even took advantage of my tofu. Don't tell me you want to go back on your word. When did I take advantage of your tofu? Qin Yining's eyes widened. You're still saying you didn't eat it. Look, you've bitten my tongue. Now that you've fallen out with me, you want to deny it. My reputation has been ruined by you. If you're not willing to take responsibility for me, then what am I going to do? Qin Yining pushed his chest with both hands and looked speechlessly at his face that was so close to hers. This person's shamelessness really made her gasp in amazement. You should really let your subordinates see what their Wang Yi looks like when he's acting shamelessly. Qin Yining only said one sentence in the end. Pang Xiao laughed heartily. Do you think all the men in the army are rough men? They left their homes to fight, and the people they owe the most are their mothers and wives at home. Our northern men are honest and love their families. Don't be fooled by how they act like little tigers outside. When they get home, they turn into cats when they see their wives. Each one is more henpecked than the other. I'm considered one of the better ones. Qin Yining was flabbergasted. She said, Don't tell me that the Tiger Army specializes in training henpecked men. You're considered one of the better ones. When they get home, do they have to kneel down like soybeans when they enter the house? Pang Xiao didn't answer. He just lowered his head and looked at her with a smile. Qin Yining blinked and suddenly realized what she had said. She was so embarrassed that she exclaimed, Aya. She lowered her head and covered her face. Sister Yi, are you finally willing to treat me as your man? Pang Xiao chuckled happily. His laughter was right next to her ear, and it made her heart tremble. His voice was deep and magnetic, and it made her face turn purple. She wished she could dig a hole and bury herself in it, but the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. Silly girl, remember this. I, Pang Zhishi, will cheat anyone, but not you. I'm a man's man. If I say I want to marry you, I will definitely marry you. You don't have to think about the problems between you and me. What national enmity? What family hatred? If I can't even settle these things, how can I have the face to marry you? You just have to wait here quietly, do you understand? Our good days are still ahead of us. As Pang Xiao spoke, he planted a kiss on her forehead. Qin Yining leaned on his shoulder quietly and nodded obediently. I know. Pang Xiao kissed the top of her head again. You have to believe me and wait for me. Okay. I will wait for you. Chapter 202. It was getting late. Qin Yining had to return home. Pang Xiao, the commander-in-chief of the Tiger Army, could not spend the night in the capital. He had to rush back to avoid delaying the military situation. It was already a great risk for him to come to the capital. In the courtyard, Huzi had already prepared the horses. Pang Xiao cupped his hands to Master Zhong and said, I've troubled you to take care of Sister Yi these days. It's hard for you to remain loyal to her in this situation. She is meticulous and loves to worry. If she didn't have someone as capable as you by her side, she might have encountered danger several times. I'm far away. Even if I have the heart, sometimes it's beyond my reach. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her in the future. Many thanks. Master Zhong hurriedly returned the greeting. He was overwhelmed by the favor and said, Wang Yi is too polite. This old man should be loyal to Master. I can't bear Wang Yi's thanks. You didn't betray her when she was in danger. How can you not bear a word of thanks? Pang Xiao smiled. Master Zhong had mixed feelings, but he could only smile back. Yu Guozhua said that the person in front of him was someone who wanted to destroy the Dian. He was an enemy. He should have hated this person. But for some reason, the legendary fiendish prince was actually a hot-blooded man who valued friendship and righteousness. Head shopkeeper Zhong only felt that the rumors were misleading, so he didn't feel the slightest bit of dislike towards him. Instead, he admired his magnanimity and righteousness. In addition, Pang Xiao had bought a lot of real estate and shops in the capital. Not only did he sell Qin Yining's shops to him, he also bought many more in private. It could be said that half of the shops in the capital were now his. Master Zhong was even more certain that the rumors of a massacre were wrong. Since the common people would not suffer and Jingdo would not be flattened, Zhong Zhongye secretly hoped that Pang Xiao would hurry up an attack. The incapable ruler and the demon empress had already lost the support of the people. Perhaps the common people would have a better life if the emperor was changed. He wanted the country to be stable. However, in the Yang dynasty, the imperial family could no longer guarantee the peaceful lives of the common people, wantonly exploiting and not treating people as people. Since then, the Yuchi family was no longer worthy of being on the high platform that people respected. The two of them exchanged some more pleasantries. Then, Pang Xiao turned to Qin Yining and said, "You have to pay more attention to your safety these days. Try not to go out if you can." "I understand. You should be careful too." The gorgeous sunset glow made her face rosy, and the light blue robe on her body was also dyed a warm color. Pang Xiao laughed. "Don't worry, the person who can kill me hasn't been born yet." He reached out his hand, wanting to touch her face and get closer to her. However, there were too many people around, so in the end, he could only pat her head lovingly. "Sister Yi, I'm leaving." Qin Yining nodded obediently. Her bright eyes were filled with reluctance. Pang Xiao couldn't wait to take her on the horse. Pang Xiao deliberately looked away and didn't look at her. He took a few deep breaths to suppress his reluctance to part with her. He took the reins from Huzi, turned around, smiled at her, and waved the horsewhip in his hand. "Let's go." The two of them led their horses and left the courtyard. After they went out, they nimbly mounted their horses and left. Qin Yining and Master Zhong stood in place and watched their backs bathed in the sunset glow. Only when the dusty road became calm again and only the ground that was dyed golden under the sunset glow did they withdraw their gazes. Qin Yining's heart was filled with disappointment. Her originally relaxed and happy mood seemed to have been splashed with cold water. She only felt empty. Seeing her disappointment, Master Zhong shook his head and said, "Boss, let me send you back." Qin Yining nodded and said, "It's about time." They got on the carriage and avoided the crowd all the way back. In the carriage, Qin Yining was still thinking about Pang Xiao's actions just now. Master Zhong didn't feel sad about parting. He was only excited to know that the capital could be protected. He clapped his hands and said, "In this way, we don't have to worry about the future. I can also tell my family that they don't have to leave in such a hurry." Qin Yining smiled and said, "Yes. It's a pity that we can't spread this news to the people. Even if I tell them, they won't believe me. If you tell them, not only will no one believe you, but you will also be labeled as a traitor. This is definitely not a good thing for your family." "Yes. That's why sometimes I feel helpless. I can clearly see something, but I can't say it. Those people who should sell their houses and land to escape still have to escape. They can only feel at ease if they escape." Master Zhong also nodded. He also felt helpless. After thinking for a moment, Master Zhong asked again, "Boss, we've already bought a lot of land. Now that we've sold the shops and houses, and we have money in our hands, do we still want to buy more land?" Qin Yining was silent for a moment when he heard this. He said, "Why do I feel like I'm taking advantage of the people's hard work to make money? In the past, I bought their land so that the people could escape with the money. If I bought their land, I wouldn't have lowered the price too low. But now, even though I know that I won't massacre the people in the city, I still—" "Boss." Master Zhong smiled and interrupted Qin Yining. "Boss, you have a kind heart. But if you don't buy it, I'm afraid that they won't get a single cent of money and can only go on their way empty-handed. They must escape now. If the city is really destroyed in the future, won't the ownerless land still benefit the Zhou dynasty's emperor?" Qin Yining nodded. He had to admit that Master Zhong was right. Master Zhong said again, "Also, now we only know that the people of the Zhou dynasty won't massacre the people in the city, and they won't take away the property that should belong to the people. Otherwise, little Wang Yi wouldn't have changed his identity and sent people to buy property. But in the end, you're still the daughter of wise Pan En. The situation of Zhao Yun Agency is special. It's hard to guarantee that the Zhou emperor won't confiscate the property of the Wu family. Didn't you see that little Wang Yi used another identity to buy these shops? I think that he won't let the emperor know about these properties. I know. Qin Yining sighed and said, what's the price of the good land around the capital now? The good land around the capital used to be 10 taels of silver per mu, but now it's sold for 2 taels of silver. Not to mention the good land in the nearby Huiju and other places. The land that used to be worth 20 to 30 taels of silver per mu, but now it's sold for 5 taels of silver. Qin Yining frowned and said, in that case, shopkeeper Zhong, go ahead and purchase them. Try your best to give me a reasonable price. For the ones around the capital and the ones near Huiju, continue to do as I said before. Only when all my silver has been used up will it be counted. Convert all my silver into farmland. If there's a chance in the future, these people will want to come back. At least they can come back to farm. Even if the land is no longer theirs, they can still eat and wear as tenants. That's right. Master, you're not a black-hearted person who exploits tenants. In my opinion, those people living in Ning Garden can be arranged to live in your fields and manor in the future. Qin Yining also nodded, at the very least, they can eat and wear. Although I feel guilty and feel that I've profited from a national disaster, there's nothing I can do about it. However, head shopkeeper, remember to do things in detail. If Pang Zhishi can find you when they want to buy shops, it means that we haven't hidden the matter of the shops well enough. The matter of the fields must be hidden well. It's best if no one can find out that we're involved. Yes. Master, don't worry. Now that I know what to do, I know what to do. Chapter 203. When Qin Yining returned to the Marquis Fu, the door was not as tightly shut as it usually was. The main door was half open, and the gatekeeper was squatting by the stone lion at the door with a frown. He was so dejected that he almost shrunk into a quail. Beside him were 2 men dressed in the Cao family's guard uniform. They guarded the door with cold expressions on their faces, as if this was not the family Qin, but the Cao family's residence. Qin Yining's heart skipped a beat. He felt that something was wrong, and his brows were tightly furrowed. What was the Cao family up to this time? Master Zhong also noticed that the family Qin's situation was unusual. He hurriedly instructed the driver, keep going, don't stop yet. The driver was Master Zhong's confidant. He also knew a little about the dispute between the family Qin and the Cao family. Seeing the situation, he did not dare to stop and hurriedly turned into a side alley. He only stopped after finding a secluded place. Boss, something might have happened in the Fu. Don't be in a hurry to go back. Let the people around you go in and take a look. Ji-Yun said, Miss, don't worry. Just wait here for now. I will quietly go back and take a look without alerting anyone. I will come back later to give you news. You have to be careful. Qin Yining held Ji-Yun's hand worriedly. It is important to pay attention to your own safety. We don't know what's going on in the Fu right now. If you feel that the other party has many people or that the situation is not right, don't take the risk. There will always be another way. Ji-Yun nodded emotionally. Qin Yining would never disregard the lives of the people around her to achieve her own goals. If she only had Pang Xiao as her master in the past, she only had respect for Qin Yining. Now, she already regarded her as her mistress. Miss, don't worry. My Qinggong is not bad. I don't confront people directly, so it should be easy for me to gather information. I will be back soon. Ji-Yun smiled comfortingly at Qin Yining. She then jumped off the carriage and headed in the direction of the Marquis Fu. At this time, the sky had completely darkened, and the alley was silent. Master Zhong did not allow the driver to light the lantern. It was dark inside the carriage. Bing Tang held Qin Yining's hand comfortingly and said in a low voice, Miss, don't worry. Everything will be fine. Yes. Don't worry, let's wait and see. That being said, Qin Yining's tone was calm, but her mind was unsettled at the moment. In that short period of time just now, she had already imagined many possibilities in her heart. After her father was reprimanded by the emperor and ordered to reflect on his mistakes, he had closed his door and refused all visitors. He only minded his own business, reading and fishing, as if he was no longer an official of the Dian court. Although Qin Huayuan didn't say it, Qin Yining, who often accompanied Qin Huayuan, knew that Qin Huayuan's depression couldn't be understood by anyone else. He was full of talent and strategy, but he cast pearls before swine. She knew that Qin Huayuan would often be torn between his loyalty and his loyalty. If he only wanted the prosperity of his family, promotion, and wealth, he would have 10,000 ways to stabilize his position. But Qin Huayuan's ambition was for the world to be at peace and for the people to live in peace. The abilities of an incapable ruler would never allow Qin Huayuan to realize his ambition. An incapable ruler would only use the officials under him as his own tools to stabilize his rule. Then he would shamelessly do whatever he wanted and use the name of the ruler to exploit his people. He only knew how to enjoy himself and was muddle-headed and immoral. Just like now, in order to secure his territory and protect his own face, the incapable ruler actually ignored the 350,000 soldiers outside the city. He was hesitant about who to hold the commander-in-chief's seal, but he had the intention to appoint someone he already knew was not a good person to contact the Taytan for help. The Taytan people had a long way to go. By the time the cavalry crossed the mountains to attack Daeju, not to mention whether Daeju would be attacked from the front and back, the Dayan side would have already been conquered by Pang Zhishi. This was called Qin Yining. Even a girl in the boudoir would find it extremely laughable and hateful. What about Qin Huayuan? She believed that if she could understand this matter, her father must have already advised the emperor. But the result now was that Qin Huayuan was ordered to reflect on his mistakes. Qin Yining knew that Qin Huayuan no longer had any hope for the incapable ruler. It could even be said that his heart was like dead ashes. A loyal official whose heart was like dead ashes and no longer wanted to fight. He only wanted to fish and read quietly at home, waiting to live and die with the country. He had even lost his official position and had no real power in his hands. What could he do to the Cao family? Qin Yining's mind was full of thoughts. She could not help but bite her lower lip. After a while, she slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. As expected, kind people are often bullied. My father's intention to secure his territory is already so obvious, but the enemy will not believe it and will not understand. They will only take advantage of our weakness to step on us. So I have always thought that if there is a way, I must make myself stronger. Only then will I have the capital to be unyielding. Otherwise, I will only be stepped on in the face. Boss is right. Master Zhong nodded in understanding and sighed, "Boss, don't worry too much. The Marquis's reputation is still there. The Cao family will not do anything." For the time being, Qin Yining could only comfort himself like this. But in the end, he was still very flustered. His palms were sweating in the hot weather. Not long after, Ji-yun returned. "Miss, I secretly snuck into the Fu and found Cao Guozhong in the outer courtyard study talking with the Marquis and second master. The inner courtyard is fine, but the old madam is probably frightened. First madam and second madam are all waiting on her. The outer courtyard study is surrounded by people. I did not dare to disturb these people and did not dare to go close to listen. I hurriedly came to tell Miss. But in my opinion, the Fu is fine for the time being. Perhaps Cao Guozhong is looking for the Marquis for something." Qin Yining heard this and quietly let out a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as it was not Cao Guozhong leading people to raid the Fu. If Cao Guozhong really had the guts to do that, then it meant that the emperor was going to make a move against their family. "Boss, what are you going to do now?" Qin Yining said, "I am going back to the Fu now. If someone asks, just say that I went to Ningyuan to visit a few sick refugees. You mention this matter and I will make arrangements. We must not expose Pang Zhishi's whereabouts today." "Yes, boss, do not worry." Qin Yining instructed Master Zhong, then took Ji-yun and Bing Tang back to the Fu. The Cao family's guards in front of the Fu only glanced at Qin Yining a few times and did not stop him. Qin Yining followed his usual routine and directly passed through the Yi Gate, intending to go to the second gate. Unexpectedly, just as he turned a corner, he heard footsteps behind him. A deep and sonorous voice coldly said, "In the end, the matter of the Ministry of Revenue was once handled by you. Although it has been a long time, if you have the ability to embezzle, how can you be so sure that no one knows?" Qin Meng, don't think that your actions are watertight. Since this old man has come to ask you about it, then I know that you were the one who led your second brother in embezzling. During this period of time, you should properly recall. In the end, the emperor has treated you well. Don't miscalculate and continue to make mistakes. Chapter 204. Guozhong Cao is right. The emperor's grace is vast and mighty. As officials, we naturally have to do our best to serve the country. We can't do anything to disappoint the emperor. Guozhong, you now have the important task of contacting the Titan. You must live up to the emperor's trust. People have limited energy, especially people like Guozhong Cao who are in the middle of his life. It's inevitable that his mind will be muddled. You are busy contacting the Titan, but you can still spare some energy to come to our house as a guest. It's really admirable. However, I still have to remind you out of kindness. Don't miscalculate the accounts, don't fail to distinguish priorities, and fail to live up to the emperor's trust in you. Qin Huayuan's voice was still calm and refined as usual. When one listened carefully, one could even hear a faint smile in his voice. But his words were sharp and piercing Guozhong Cao's heart. He thoroughly ridiculed him for hugging the Titan princess's thigh to curry favor with the Dayan emperor and taking advantage of his restored power to trample on the family Qin. Guozhong Cao was so angry that his face and ears turned red. He suddenly stopped and turned back to glare at Qin Huayuan. His beard trembled as he said, "Good, very good. The Marquis of Anping is truly a man of integrity. Perhaps it's because the Marquis of Anping's father-in-law is dead that you've forgotten how to speak to his father-in-law, right?" Qin Huayuan smiled and said, "Guozhong Cao, you must be joking. I thought you already forgot that I was your son-in-law." "You." Guozhong Cao was so angry that his fingertips trembled. He pointed fiercely at Qin Huayuan. After a while, he flicked his sleeves and said, "Just you wait. Guozhong, don't worry. I'll be right here, waiting for you." Qin Huayuan smiled, but his eyes were cold. Cao Guozhong only felt that all of his glory after his recovery was like a naked beauty in Qin Huayuan's penetrating eyes. All of his beauty was gone, and only humiliation was left. At this time, several people had already arrived in front of the Yi door. Cao Guozhong also saw Qin Yining standing in front of the Chuehua door. Originally, he was too lazy to pay attention to the family Qin's daughter, but Qin Yining's charming appearance was too similar to Qin Huayuan's when he was young. Moreover, Qin Yining and the Empress already had a deep grudge. Last time, the Empress wanted to use the flesh of beauties to retain her beauty. She didn't use Qin Yining, but she killed 2 imperial concubines in the palace. Cao Guozhong didn't agree with the Empress's actions. But he doted on his own daughter. Even if the Empress was in the wrong, Guozhong Cao didn't want to admit that it was the Empress' fault. He put all the blame on Qin Yining. If Qin Yining hadn't angered the Empress so much, how could the Empress be like this? Cao Guozhong looked at Qin Yining with his hands behind his back and said with a smile, "So it's 4th young Miss Qin. You almost became my granddaughter-in-law." Qin Yining had already heard the tit-for-tat exchange between Qin Huayuan and Cao Guozhong. She naturally knew her position at this time. She only saluted according to etiquette and said with a smile, "This little girl doesn't dare to claim connections with you. The Cao family has a free and easy style. Young Master Cao has inherited the essence of your family's professors. This little girl has little talent and knowledge. I don't have the courage nor the foresight. I don't think I'm worthy of young Master Cao's free and easy character." Cao Guozhong's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He naturally knew that the Empress had wanted to betroth Qin Yining to his grandson, Cao Chengjun, in front of the Emperor. He didn't know what Cao Chengjun was thinking. He actually dared to flirt with Qin Yining in the palace. It was said that he didn't just flirt with her verbally, he also touched her physically. This matter even angered the Emperor. Later, the Emperor even called him into the palace to reprimand him, saying that he didn't manage his family properly and that his grandson wasn't good at teaching. Qin Yining mentioning this matter now was simply slapping him in the face. "Good, good, good. It's true that like father, like daughter. Both of you have sharp tongues." Cao Guozhong sneered. Qin Yining said with a smile, "Thank you for your praise, Cao Guozhong. This little girl doesn't dare to accept such praise. Compared to you and the Empress, this little girl admits defeat." Cao Guozhong was so angry that his hands trembled. He felt that it was too ugly to argue with a little girl here. He also felt that he couldn't out-talk this fox father and daughter, so he simply flicked his sleeves and left. It was useless to say anything. Right now, he just wanted to kill them. "Forgive me for not seeing you off. Take care, Guozhong." Qin Huayuan smiled and saluted. Qin Yining also saluted along with the servants. Cao Guozhong was so angry that his hair stood on end that he walked very quickly. Looking at his back, it seemed as if he was fleeing. Qin Yining and Qin Huayuan watched him leave. Only when he was far away and the servants closed the door and could no longer see Cao Guozhong's figure did Qin Yining let out a laugh. Second Master wiped the sweat from his forehead and said anxiously, "What should we do? Sister Yi, how can you still laugh? Didn't you offend him by speaking like that just now?" Qin Yining and Qin Huayuan looked at each other. Qin Yining said with a smile, "Second uncle, there's no need to panic. Even if we treat the Cao family with respect, they will still bully us." "I heard what he said just now. He wanted to push some of the Ministry of Revenue's matters onto my father and you." Second Master nodded and said, "The Ministry of Revenue has been in deficit for many years. In fact, there's been this kind of unhealthy trend in the Imperial Court for a long time. Many of the officials have borrowed money from the Ministry of Revenue and used the promissory notes to make the payment. Now, there's only the promissory notes and no silver left. The Imperial Court needs money to fight wars, and His Majesty also needs money to find skilled craftsmen. In this way, we don't have enough silver. Cao Guozhong wants to use this matter to stab us in the heart. He really knows how to think of a way. He wants to use this matter to say that my father didn't do a good job. When the Imperial Court needs money, His Majesty will definitely pay more attention to this matter. If he uses my father, I'm afraid that the situation won't be good." Qin Yining's brows furrowed in worry. The worried look on his face was completely different from the person who dared to confront Cao Guozhong directly. Qin Huayuan shook his head. "This is called disaster befalling from the sky behind closed doors. I've already decided to live in seclusion and go fishing in a swallow, waiting to accompany His Majesty in life and death." However, he still took the initiative to come to our door. "Second brother, you don't need to worry. Even if I kneel down and beg him right now, they won't be lenient with us. Today, I did say a lot of things in my impulsiveness. However, I felt much more refreshed after saying them. It's just that I've troubled you and implicated you." Second Master waved his hand and said, "Big brother, what are you saying? Even if this matter didn't happen, we're still a family. Your matter is my matter. For those who want to harm us, if they want to harm us, they can always find an excuse. This time won't make a difference." Qin Huayuan smiled bitterly, completely lacking the high-spirited and vigorous spirit he had in front of Cao Guozhong. At this time, he was so tired that his shoulders drooped. He was completely different from the person who was always as tall and straight as a mountain in the past. Father, daughter, uncle, and nephew led the servants through the Chuehua gate. When they arrived in front of Xiao Garden, Qin Huayuan sighed and said, "The emperor relies heavily on him, so he naturally wants to take advantage of this opportunity to harm our family. I think that the situation is hopeless. With His Majesty's temperament, as long as Cao Guozhong gives him some hope and says that the Taitan might come to help, His Majesty wouldn't hesitate to immediately issue an edict to take my life. I'm really..." When Second Master heard this, he felt so sad that tears almost flowed out of his eyes. For many years, Qin Huayuan had devoted himself to the country, sparing no effort, and wholeheartedly devoted himself to court politics. He didn't expect that he would end up in this situation. Not only was he stripped of his official position and forced to reflect on his mistakes, but he was also bullied by Dog. Qin Yining looked worriedly at Qin Huayuan and Second Master. She knew that a person who had devoted his entire life to the court was suppressed to this state by Cao Guozhong, who was indulged by the emperor. It really made one feel sad. This kind of matter couldn't be resolved with just a few words from others. Qin Yining could only smile and say, "Father, second uncle, don't worry. I don't think this matter will necessarily get out of control. After all, Cao Guozhong doesn't have any evidence and can't go to the emperor to report it. Father, as long as he can't report it, we still have time. We can always think of a way. Qin Yining smiled. His warm smile gave people the feeling of a sunflower bathing in the sunlight, making people feel that it was full of vitality and hope. Qin Huayuan smiled and shook his head. He didn't say anything else and entered the second gate. This kind of matter could only be known by the warm and the cold. Qin Yining knew that it was useless to persuade him, so he followed to see the old madam. At this time, the womenfolk were all gathered in the old madam's room. Mammy Qin saw that Qin Huayuan had returned and hurriedly went into the room to report. She personally lifted the bead curtain at the door for Qin Huayuan, second master, and Qin Yining. Ji Xiong lifted the bamboo curtain made of muslin from the inside. After entering the room, the servants immediately and deftly put down the muslin curtain, blocking out any mosquitoes that might fly into the room. When the old madam saw Qin Huayuan, she hastily sat up. Meng Jie, what did Cao Guozhong come here for? Did something happen again? I think that if you didn't stop him today, he would have brought people in to search the house. That won't happen. Isn't everything fine now? Qin Huayuan sat down next to the old madam. You don't have to worry. It's not a big matter. It's just that the war needs money now. The Ministry of Revenue can't take out the money, so they brought up some old matters from when I was the Prime Minister. Perhaps they want to put all the money that was lost on me. However, they don't have concrete evidence, so it's fine for the time being. It's fine for the time being. When the old madam heard these words, she was so angry that her face turned green. She almost couldn't breathe properly. Mammy Qin, who was standing next to the old madam, quickly helped her lie down. She gently persuaded her and fed her some water. Only then did the old madam's expression become slightly better. Isn't this because the heavens want our family Qin to be destroyed? Meng Jie is an honest and upright official. How could he do such a thing? This is called if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. The old madam's words made all the womenfolk in the room unable to stop themselves from anxiously shedding tears. Now, their family was like the monkeys scatter when the tree falls. After Qin Huayuan was forced to resign, the people who were close to him in the past didn't interact with him anymore. Everyone knew what was going on in their hearts and didn't disturb each other. Now that such a big matter had happened, it was extremely difficult to count on anyone to speak up for Qin Huayuan. However, Guozhong Cao had regained power and was the sole power in the imperial court. Wouldn't he take the opportunity to seek revenge? Whoever was an official in the imperial court had the power to speak. Second Old Master was only an insignificant official in the Ministry of Rights. Qin Huayuan didn't have an official position anymore. Now, their family Qin didn't even have a single person to speak up for them in the imperial court. Everyone's expressions were extremely miserable. Just as everyone was silent and the old madam and the members of the Sun clan were silently shedding tears, Chi Tai's voice suddenly came from outside. Marquis, Marquis. Qin Huayuan stood up and looked outside the screen window. He saw Chi Tai standing in the corridor. The anxiety on his face could be seen clearly under the light. What's the matter? Chapter 205. I know. Qin Huayuan was stunned for a moment before he turned around with a bitter smile. His Highness has been patient with Cao Guozhong for a long time. He doesn't dare to lose his temper normally, but today, he lost his temper. It seems that he is really angry. Third Elder Master nodded. Big Brother is right. Among the people who have been His Highness's Grand Tutor and Grand Tutor, Big Brother is the closest to His Highness. Now that Cao Guozhong wants to take advantage of the situation and push the Ministry of Revenue's deficit to Big Brother and Second Elder Brother, His Highness will naturally stand up for Big Brother. That's right. His Highness is frank and upright. He is also very accomplished in calligraphy and painting. He is an outstanding talent. It's a pity that he was born in the wrong time. Qin Huayuan's smile faded and turned into a sigh. If it were a time of peace and prosperity, with 2 or 3 loyal officials by his side, His Highness would be able to defend the achievements. However, Dian is in turmoil right now, and the people have no way to make a living. There is no chance for His Highness to display his talents. Second Elder Master also said, to say something disrespectful, if His Majesty abdicates the throne to His Highness, kills the Demon Empress and the Cow Clan, and orders Big Brother to assist His Highness, Guozhou might still have a chance to survive. With Father's wisdom, we can defend a city with our 350,000 soldiers. The Tiger Army only has 100,000 soldiers. They really can't do anything to us. Dian might not necessarily lose. It's a pity that His Majesty trusted the treacherous officials and hoped that the Taytan would come from afar to help. Now, the Commander-in-Chief's seal is still empty. Without a leader, how can we fight the Tiger Army? The more Qin Yining spoke, the angrier he became. He wished he could grab the fatuous ruler and slap him a few dozen times to see if he could wake him up. She, a young woman, was already like this. What about Qin Huayuan, who had been an official for decades? A fatuous ruler like him had let down her father's talent and loyalty. Forget it. His Highness should have vented his anger by now. I'll go outside and take a look. Qin Huayuan brushed his sleeves and went out of Xiao Garden toward the front courtyard. Only then did old Madam react. Could it be that Meng Jie purposely talked for a while and went later? Second Elder Master smiled and said, Eldest brother thinks that the Crown Prince has been suppressed for too long. If he goes out early, the Crown Prince will be wronged. It's better to let him be. In any case, Cao Guozhong won't do anything to the Crown Prince. However, even if His Highness the Crown Prince is not favored, he is still a prince and the son of the Emperor. Minister of State Cao is only an official, yet he dares to quarrel with a prince. He is too arrogant and presumptuous. In the end, Second Old Master only sneered. Everyone also felt that Cao Guozhong was arrogant. But now, other than talking behind his back, they couldn't find a way to suppress him. This can't go on. Qin Yining said faintly, since Mr. Cao can bring people here to slander us today, he might bring people here tomorrow to seize our house and plant evidence of his crime. We still have to be careful in our family. I think Minister of State Cao wants to take advantage of the time when the Emperor is relying on the Taytan to weaken our family. Now that Father is forced to take over the government, I think that only His Highness the Crown Prince has a sense of justice. The others can't even protect themselves. Who would dare to speak up for Father and offend Minister of State Cao? If this matter continues to develop like this basin of dirty water will fall on our family sooner or later. Yes. Qin Yining couldn't help but pace back and forth with worry. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Cao Guozhong was now in control of authority and had the support of the Emperor and the Demon Empress. It could be said that he didn't lack the authority to act or speak. If Cao Guozhong was a little more vicious and spouted some nonsense in the imperial court, wouldn't Cao Guozhong's father be at home? Wouldn't Cao Guozhong have no choice but to allow others to put dirty water on his head and not even be able to open his mouth to refute? Sister Yi is right. What should we do? The members of the Sun Clan were also a bit anxious. Now that a storm was coming, all the family members were gathered together. Qin Huayuan and his brothers no longer avoided the womenfolk when discussing matters of state. Thus, the womenfolk had never experienced the intrigue in the imperial court before. They also understood that it wasn't easy for the men outside. Although everyone was afraid, they were desperately trying to think of a solution. Qin Huaining, who had been silent all this time, raised his head and looked at Qin Yining hesitantly. Fourth young lady, you are familiar with His Highness the Crown Prince. I think that for Father's sake, you should be more active with His Highness the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince is still the Crown Prince. Perhaps he is willing to do his best for Father and can be useful. Seeing that everyone was looking at her, Qin Huaining blushed and hurriedly explained, I am just worried about Father and want to help. I don't have any other intentions. The idea is also nonsense. At first, Qin Yining suspected that Qin Huaining was trying to stir up trouble at this time. But this time, Qin Yining only saw fear on Qin Huaining's face. She didn't feel any malice from her. Qin Yining was a person who was especially sensitive to other people's gazes and malice. It could be said that this was her innate survival instinct. Now, facing Qin Huaining who didn't have any malice, She only nodded and calmly said, "I will consider it." Qin Huaining heard this and clearly sighed in relief. Now that the world was in chaos, she had to continue living in the family Qin to ensure her own safety. Qin Yining's current position was unshakable. Whether it was the family Qin's hearts or morals, everything leaned towards Qin Yining. Even if she was unwilling in her heart, she wouldn't be foolish enough to continue striking a stone with an egg and seeking her own death. What she needed to do now was to curry favor with Qin Yining, the steward's miss, just like how she used to curry favor with Old Madam and the Sun Clan. Qin Huaining revealed a timid smile to Qin Yining. Qin Yining looked away and no longer paid any attention to Qin Huaining. She kept analyzing the current situation in her mind. As for the Crown Prince, I feel that it's not a big deal if we don't beg him. After a while, Qin Yining said, "The Crown Prince will definitely stand up and speak for father. Just like now, His Highness the Crown Prince has already opposed Guozhong Cao without our request. It's just that the Crown Prince's ability is limited, and his words don't carry enough weight. This matter can't be resolved just by pleading with His Majesty. We need to take drastic measures." Second Master also nodded, "I also think so. With His Highness the Crown Prince's character, he won't sit idly by and do nothing about our family's matters. It's just that he has the will but not the ability." At this time, Qin Huaining's face had already turned red, and even the tips of her ears had turned red. She had come up with this idea because she wanted to show off in front of her family and salvage her image. She hadn't expected that her idea would turn out to be the last resort. When sixth young miss saw Qin Huaining's reaction, she pulled on her hand and shook it. Qin Huaining's face turned purple, and she gave sixth young miss a smile that was uglier than crying. Qin Yining didn't pay attention to Qin Huaining and sixth young miss's expressions. Instead, she was lost in thought as she fiddled with the red bean bracelet on her wrist. This was a habit she had developed recently. Whenever she was lost in thought, she couldn't help but fiddle with the bracelet. Second Master and Third Master also frowned. "What exactly should we do? Take drastic measures?" Qin Han said, "If we want to take drastic measures, we naturally have to completely clear eldest uncle's name. We have to prove that he's innocent." Qin Yu also nodded, "That's right. Eldest uncle has been honest for so many years, so he really shouldn't be the scapegoat. The Ministry of Revenue's money was loaned out, and it wasn't our family's doing. With so many pairs of eyes watching, how could they possibly renege on their debt? If there's a debt, there's no need to worry about it. We can definitely settle it clearly." Eldest young mistress Yu said, "Although that's true, how exactly do we prove eldest uncle's innocence?" Everyone fell silent again. The Dowager Duchess leaned against a large pillow and watched her children and grandchildren work together to solve this difficult problem. She was so moved that tears almost fell from her eyes. In the past, when she was in charge of the inner residence, she sometimes felt that each branch of the family had their own ideas and was like a plate of loose sand. She didn't expect that the family Qin people would be so united in the face of difficulties. Thinking back carefully, all of this seemed to have started when Qin Huayuan was sent to the Ministry of Justice's prison and when Qin Yining acted as the family's representative. It seemed that this granddaughter of hers was very formidable. It was fortunate that she was in the family at that time. The Dowager Duchess smiled as she looked at Qin Yining and asked, "Sister Yi, what do you think?" Qin Yining didn't expect that the Dowager Duchess would mention her name. However, seeing her benevolent expression, as if there had never been any discord between them, Qin Yining was happy to get closer to the Dowager Duchess. She spoke the truth. "I think that it's possible to prove father's innocence, but when the time comes, there will be a lot of wrangling, and the difficulty won't be small. In fact, I've been thinking about what a real drastic measure is." Qin Han looked at Qin Yining, "Fourth sister, what do you think is a drastic measure?" Qin Yining smiled and softly said, "The drastic measures that I can think of all involve bloodshed. It's better not to say it out loud." Her voice was very pleasant to hear and her smile was also very lively. However, when she said the words bloodshed in that indifferent tone, for some reason, made people feel a chill run down their backs. Second Master frowned and said, "Sister Yi, you mean, there are some words that just need to be understood. Why should I say it out loud? If they wanted to protect Qin Huayuan, The only way to take drastic measures was to let all the bad people who wanted to harm him meet the king of hell. After Qin Han pondered deeply, he was so frightened that he sucked in a breath of cold air. Sixth young miss, seventh young miss, and Qin Huaining also understood, and their faces turned deathly pale. The crown prince of the Sun clan even put his arm around Qin Yining's shoulder and lightly patted her cheek. As a girl, you shouldn't talk about fighting and killing every time you open your mouth. Don't be so murderous. After sending off the crown prince, Qin Huiyuan returned to the veranda and happened to hear Qin Yining's words. He waved his hand to stop Ru Yi from passing on the message and stopped in the veranda, not immediately coming in. Qin Yining smiled. I'm just saying. In my opinion, proving my father's innocence will also require a lot of effort. Since it's going to take a lot of effort, it's better to do it cleanly and avoid endless troubles in the future. It's easy to say, but do you know how hard it is to actually do it? That's a big tree that many people can't shake even if they join hands. Sister Yi, you must not do this again in the future, second master lectured in a deep voice. Qin Yining smiled and nodded, no longer arguing. However, in her mind, the murderous intent surged again. Was it really impossible to kill? Was it really impossible to kill? Chapter 206. In the following days, the family Qin's life was completely disrupted by Cao Guozhong. Almost every day, Cao Guozhong sent people to meet with Qin Huiyuan. At first, it was to be sarcastic and offensive. Later, Cao Guozhong personally led people to search the family Qin for so-called evidence. Not to mention the courtyards that had already been locked down, even the old madam's Xiao garden was turned upside down. The so-called search was not a serious investigation. It was a deliberate attempt to destroy the family Qin's things. The things in the bookshelves and cabinets were all turned over and thrown on the ground. Even the Soaring study where the girls lived was not spared. Not to mention the books on the bookshelves and the decorations in the multi-treasure pavilion, even the winter clothes in the chests and baskets were turned over. The entire residence was in a mess, as if it had been robbed by bandits. Second Old Master's official position in the Ministry of Rights had also been pointed out by Cao Guozhong. He had insinuated that Second Old Master was in cahoots with Qin Huiyuan and had embezzled money from the Ministry of Revenue. The emperor was already in a fit of anger, so he didn't even ask for proof before he reprimanded Second Old Master. Today, other than Qin Huiyuan, who still retained his title of nobility, the rest of the family Qin had no voice in the court. Whatever Cao Guozhong said in court was the truth. The family Qin did not even have a chance to refute. Qin Yining was already having a hard time in the summer. Because of the recent events, he was full of anger. He was so angry that he could not eat for 2 consecutive days. Not to mention Qin Yining, who was young and strong, the old madam had already fallen ill from anger. She only recovered after taking medicine for a few days. Qin Huiyuan had never suffered such a loss in his life. As a man, if he couldn't even leave this piece of pure land for his family, how could he have the face to drag out an ignoble existence? Therefore, Qin Huiyuan, who was extremely angry, had no other choice but to send letters to the emperor to plead his case. However, the emperor's reply was, Cao Guozhong is investigating the direction of the Ministry of Revenue's money and the embezzlement case under Zhen's orders. My beloved official should still consider the overall situation and cooperate. Cooperate? If they continued to cooperate, the family Qin would be swallowed whole by the Cao family. How could Qin Huiyuan be willing to suffer such a loss? Cao Guozhong kept harassing the family Qin, so the Qin Huiyuan kept sending him memorials. When he was negotiating peace in Shihua City, every day the emperor would send dozens of oral orders to urge him to hurry up. He was now in the imperial city of the capital. Could it be that he could not learn from the emperor? Therefore, Qin Huiyuan's memorials were sent to the palace almost twice a day. If one day Cao Guozhong came to make a big fuss, he would send him 3 or 4 more times. Perhaps Qin Huiyuan's sincerity moved the emperor, or perhaps the emperor finally couldn't stand the disturbance anymore. That day, the emperor arranged for Chief Steward Wang to personally come to the Qin manor to pass on an oral order. In the summer afternoon, the sun was particularly hot. The stone bricks in the front yard of the Qin manor were a bit hot when kneeling. The heat penetrated the thin summer material and invaded the skin, causing Qin Yining and the womenfolk to frown. Qin Yining knelt in the back and worriedly raised her eyes to look at Qin Huayuan, who was kneeling at the front. In her mind, there was a scene that was very similar to what was happening now. It was in the Sun family of the Duke Dinggua's mansion. She and Qin Huayuan had followed their mother to kneel among the womenfolk of the Sun family. They watched Chief Steward Wang from the palace pass down an edict for Sun Yu's brain. Then there was Sun Yu's tragic collision. The scene of red and white splashing and 10,000 peach blossoms blooming would probably be unforgettable for the rest of their lives. The tragedy of the Sun family also began from that day. The person who came to pass on the edict today was still Chief Steward Wang. Their family was still like the Sun family that day. They were as powerless as fish on a chopping board waiting to be killed. Qin Yining felt the Sun family beside her tremble. She understood that this scene also made her mother think of the Sun family. Qin Yining supported the Sun family and squeezed her hand comfortingly. Feeling the warmth of their daughter's body, the Sun family finally felt a bit more at ease. Chief Steward Wang flung his horsetail whisk and said with a smile, "Marquis of Anping, I came today to pass on the Emperor's verbal edict. The Emperor ordered me to tell the Marquis of Anping word for word, so the Marquis of Anping must listen carefully." "Yes. Thank you for your trouble, Gong Gong." Qin Huayuan bowed solemnly. Chief Steward Wang's sharp voice imitated the Emperor's tone to 80%. "We saw that you had done your job well in the past, so we didn't blame you in advance. Who would have thought that you would only ask others to prioritize state affairs, but when it was your turn, you weren't even willing to cooperate with the investigation? Could it be that you really did embezzle the Ministry of Revenue's money? Are you feeling guilty now? Not only have you failed to live up to our trust in you, you've also led our only crown prince astray." The former crown prince's crown prince was well-educated and reasonable, gentle and refined. Now, he dares to yell in front of us that he doesn't distinguish between the young and the old. Your actions truly disappoint us. How can you still have the face to report to us about the state's father-in-law? The family Qin's people all knelt on the ground and bowed. Their foreheads were pressed against the tiles as they listened to Chief Steward Wang's words without missing a single word. The courtyard was completely silent. These heart-wrenching words were like invisible blades that had already pierced through people's hearts. Qin Yining raised his head and quietly looked at Qin Huayuan's back. His originally tall and straight figure had now collapsed, as if he couldn't bear the heavy weight on his body and was finally unable to hold on. After a while, Qin Huayuan said in a hoarse voice, "Many thanks, Wang Gonggong. Please convey this official's intentions. This official's family thanks the Emperor for his teachings." Chief Steward Wang sighed and said, "Marquis of Anping, don't be too stubborn. If you can't handle it, then take a step back. Don't forget the previous example. Look at what happened to the grandson of Duke Ding. You're a talented person. There's no need to compete with others at this time." Chief Steward Wang had served the Emperor for many years. Although he wasn't good at other things, his ability to observe people's expressions was great. The conflict between the Emperor and Qin Huayuan had been stirred up by the Cao family, but he couldn't do anything about it. Chief Steward Wang still had a conscience. He also admired Qin Huayuan's conduct, so he gave him a reminder. Qin Huayuan was naturally grateful. He personally saw Chief Steward Wang out and even gave him a first-class red envelope. The womenfolk supported each other as they staggered to their feet. The old madam's face was already covered in tears. "They've gone too far, they've gone too far. Aren't they bullying us because there's no one left in our family? Could it be that the heavens want to destroy our family Qin?" The Sun clan thought of the tragic state of the Sun family that day. Then, they thought of Qin Huayuan's stooped back after being scolded. Their hearts ached, and tears streamed down their faces. Everyone returned to Ci Xiao Garden. Everyone was like a frosted eggplant. Some had a worried expression, and some silently cried. Not long after, Qin Huayuan returned with second Old Master and third Old Master. Only then did the sobbing in the room gradually die down. Qin Huayuan wasn't like before when he still wanted to bring people to discuss this matter. Instead, He calmly paid his respects to the old madam and comforted her with a few words. Then, he said that he was tired and wanted to take a nap. The old madam naturally didn't refuse and dismissed everyone. Qin Yining, Bing Tang, and Ji Yun left Ci Xiao Garden. As they walked, they suddenly stopped. Tell me, in this situation, who else can help my father? Chapter 207. When Ji Yun saw that her master's family had been bullied by people like Cao Guozhong, she almost wanted to kill him. When she heard Qin Yining's question, her eyes lit up with excitement. She whispered, "Young lady, as long as you say the word, I will make a move tonight. I will definitely kill that old thing." Qin Yining didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "Assassination?" "Yes, assassination." Ji Yun gritted her teeth. For this kind of scourge, how many more lives can be saved if he dies a day earlier? That's not appropriate. Qin Yining shook her head and said, "Let's not talk about how many guards Cao Guozhong has around him. You might not be able to succeed and might even lose your life. Let's talk about what happens after you kill him." Ji Yun was stunned by Qin Yining's question and shook her head. Killing him is not the end of the matter. The demon empress is still around, the incapable ruler is still around, and the descendants of the Cao family are still around. There might be a successor of Cao Guozhong among them. What if the successor of Cao Guozhong is even worse than him? At the very least, I already have a good understanding of this Cao Guozhong. If I were to face a new opponent, I would have to spend time to get to know him better. In that case, I might as well think of a way to wipe them all out, don't you think? Ji Yun nodded in agreement and followed Qin Yining for a few steps. She suddenly stopped and said, "Young lady, you said to take drastic measures earlier, and now you say to wipe them all out. Could it be that you want to wipe out the entire Cao family?" Qin Yining didn't deny it. In fact, she didn't only want to wipe out the Cao family, but also the demon empress and the incapable ruler. Although to her, as a citizen of the Dian dynasty, wanting to kill the incapable ruler was treason, the incapable ruler was tyrannical. Not to mention the common people suffering, even her father was trampled into the dust and couldn't turn over a new leaf. Qin Yining couldn't help but laugh. Her thoughts now were probably in line with her grandmother and the people of the Qingtian alliance. On the other hand, Qin Yining's calm demeanor made it seem as if all they were discussing was what dishes to eat and what flowers to embroider. The Cao family was very powerful, and the relationships in the imperial court were very complicated. Even Qin Huayuan was suppressed. Qin Yining was still an unmarried girl. Ji Yun really couldn't think of any way to deal with Qin Yining. But for some reason, even though she didn't know what Qin Yining was going to do, Ji Yun still felt that as long as Qin Yining said it, it would definitely be done. There aren't many good people in the Cao family. What should be destroyed must be destroyed. If only little Wang Yi was here. It wouldn't be a problem for him to bring his troops and flatten their house. Bing Tang nodded as he listened. That's right. If little Wang Yi were here, would he allow the Cao family to be so impudent? He would have slapped them long ago. Even the dog emperor was like a mouse seeing a cat when he saw little Wang Yi. How could the Cao family be more important than the emperor? Qin Yining gently squeezed Ji Yun's and Bing Tang's hands. Don't say such things in the future. The situation is getting more and more tense, so we can't let our guard down. Yes. Bing Tang and Ji Yun both realized that what they said just now might bring trouble to Qin Yining, so they kept quiet. Qin Yining said in a low voice, "Although it's true that a strong person can defeat 10 skilled people, we still have to live our lives. There's no need to hurt the jade bottle just to beat the mouse. Sometimes, it's not hard to use your brain to solve problems. That's because the young lady is smart enough." Bing Tang said in a low voice, "Don't tell me you think that anyone can do that." Qin Yining burst out laughing. He thought for a moment and said, "Tell them to prepare the carriage. We're going to Prince Ning's residence." Prince Ning's residence? Bing Tang asked in surprise. The young lady and Prince Ning have only met once before. Are you going to help the Marquis ask for help? Yes. Although we've only met once, we have to think of a way to try. Qin Yining said, after thinking about it, other than Prince Ning, there's no need to consider anyone else who has a sense of justice, is willing to worry about the rise and fall of this country, and has enough weight to speak in front of the emperor. Although that's the case, Prince Ning is not a simple person. How can the young lady persuade him with just a few words? Bing Tang knew Prince Ning very well. Qin Yining smiled and shook his head. He said, I can't be sure of anything, but the only thing we can do now is to ask Prince Ning for help. My father has been suppressed to the point that he doesn't even have a chance to talk back. We need someone to speak for my father in the imperial court. Even if they can't persuade the emperor to change his mind, at least they can't let the Cao family say whatever they want to confuse the emperor's judgment. Prince Ning is a hot-blooded man. Although he has some small problems, he's upright and knows how to repay kindness. He's someone who can be entrusted with this matter. Ji Yun thought for a moment and asked, Young lady, do you want to send an invitation first and arrange a time to visit him tomorrow? As for the Marquis, don't you want to discuss it with him? Qin Yining waved his hand and said, If I send an invitation, I probably won't be able to see Prince Ning. Prince Ning is so slippery. He's afraid of getting into trouble and will only refuse to see our family Qin. If I suddenly go there, I might have a chance. I won't discuss it with my father for the time being. If I don't do my job well, it has nothing to do with my family. It's something I did on my own. If my father finds out, it will be troublesome. Once something goes wrong, it won't be that simple. Bing Tang and Ji Yun laughed when they heard this. I knew that this lady's brain isn't simple. She's actually so thoughtful. You two are so talkative. Qin Yining chuckled. Qin Yining left with Bing Tang and Ji Yun in a car. After thinking for a while, he didn't go straight to the prince's residence. Instead, he called for Master Zhong. Master Zhong was very experienced and had a wide network of connections. With him around, Qin Yining would have one more person to discuss the matter with. On the carriage, the four of them had already analyzed the possible reactions that Ning Wang would have in a low voice. Qin Yining also thought of several excuses to ask Prince Ning for help. He even decided that if it really didn't work out, he would use the trick of injuring himself to gain Prince Ning's favor no matter what. The carriage kept moving forward, getting closer and closer to Prince Ning's mansion. Qin Yining lifted the curtains and looked outside. He saw that the back garden and side alley of Prince Ning's mansion were not far away. Strangely, there were two figures gathered at the corner gate of Prince Ning's mansion's back garden. It was a young man and woman. The man was wearing an ordinary cotton robe. He was about 25 or 26 years old and was very thin. Because they were too far away, Qin Yining couldn't see his face clearly. However, from his temperament, he could feel that this person was somewhat dispirited and stooped. The woman beside him was about 21 or 22 years old. She was wearing a light green robe that only female officials in Prince Ning's mansion wore. Her outer robe was pink and pinched her teeth to match her armor. As the woman and the man talked, they hugged each other. First, they hugged, then kissed. Then, they whispered a few words to each other. Qin Yining saw the woman take out a cloth bundle from her bosom. She weighed the bundle and gave it to the man. At this time, the carriage was slowly approaching. If it went any further, they would be alerted. Qin Yining quietly ordered the coachman to stop the carriage. The man stuffed the bundle into his bosom. Then, he hugged the woman and kissed her. Only then did he leave in a fluster. The woman carefully checked to see if there was anyone else nearby. After confirming that she was safe, she went through the corner gate. Qin Yining narrowed his eyes and said, Head shopkeeper, I'll have to trouble you to help me find out what that maidservant and that man do and what their relationship is. Master Zhong nodded. That won't be difficult. We know people here. We'll know once we ask. Chapter 208. Qin Yining's carriage stopped in the hidden alley behind Prince Ning's residence. Master Zhong alighted and went to find someone to use his connections to inquire about the matter just now. Qin Yining, Bing Tang, and Ji Yun stayed in the carriage to wait. Bing Tang asked in a low voice, Miss, why aren't we going in? Prince Ning should be in the residence right now. Is Miss worried that Prince Ning won't agree? That's right. Let's not talk about anything else. If I were Prince Ning, I wouldn't let myself be involved in such a troublesome matter for no reason. The court is currently in chaos. Prince Ning has led the army before. The emperor is also suspicious. It's hard to guarantee that people won't suspect anything even if we don't do anything, let alone casually choosing a side. This is the biggest taboo. Qin Yining lowered her long eyelashes. Her right hand's fingers rubbed the red bean bracelet on her slender left wrist. She said faintly, "Actually, I just don't want to let go of any leads. I'll have to trouble Master Zhong to investigate and see if there's an opportunity. If there isn't, I'll have to brace myself and ask for it." "Miss, what you're doing is right," Ji Yun said in admiration. "Only by not letting go of any clues can one grasp all the opportunities. Wang Yi has always done things like this. No wonder Wang Yi would place Miss at the top of his heart and dote on you so much. It turns out that their temperaments are compatible." Qin Yining's cheeks flushed red. She said angrily, "What are you saying? Why are you talking about him when we're being serious?" Ji Yun saw Qin Yining's face and ears turning red. She couldn't help but tease, "That's strange. This servant didn't say anything improper. I just mentioned Wang Yi. Or are you thinking of something indecent?" When Qin Yining heard this, she felt her head explode. Her face was so red that it was about to drip blood. She rolled her eyes at Ji Yun and looked away. She wouldn't say another word even if she was beaten to death. Ji Yun and Bing Tang looked at each other and could not help but laugh. It seemed that the relationship between Wang Yi and Miss was not affected by the dispute between the two countries. Instead, it was gradually improving. It was no wonder that Wang Yi was so attentive to her. Even when they were just talking, he did not forget to prepare some beef in advance for her. Firstly, a man was willing to cook for a woman. This in itself was extremely touching. Secondly, regardless of whether it was in Daju or Dian, even if one was a noble, it was not easy to eat beef. Cows were labor, and killing them was a big crime. Wang Yi was able to get a piece of beef shank to cook noodles for the young lady in Dian when there was a famine. It could be seen that he had put a lot of thought into this young lady. Even the servants who were watching from the side felt touched for the young lady, let alone the person in question, Qin Yining. The two maidservants were afraid that Qin Yining would not be able to get over it, so they only joked in their hearts and did not dare to say another word. Qin Yining leaned against the wall of the carriage and looked through the screen to see a small blade of grass outside. The weather was hot. Fortunately, they were parked under the shade of a tree, which could relieve some of the stuffy heat. However, even so, Qin Yining was sweating profusely and kept fanning himself. After waiting for 2 hours, Master Zhong returned with a head full of sweat. "Boss." Master Zhong boarded the carriage. Ji Yun and Bing Tang consciously got off the carriage. They handed water and a handkerchief to Master Zhong before walking away with the coachman. Qin Yining looked at Master Zhong's sweat-soaked collar and hair and said apologetically, "It's such a hot day. It must have been hard for head shopkeeper to make this trip." "It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal." Master Zhong waved his hand and said with a smile, "Fortunately, I didn't fail my mission. This old man really did find out some information. This person is called Li Wenhan. He became a Shotsi at the age of 14 and is now 28 years old. He hasn't made any progress in his official career. Because he made careless friends, he got into the bad habit of gambling. He often gambles outside and owes a lot of money. Boss, guess what the woman who was with him just now gave him?" Qin Yining said, "That woman is close to him. What she gave him is naturally something that can repay his debt. No matter how bad the prince's mansion is, she can just give him a few melons or 2 dates, enough for Li Wenhan to squander outside." Boss's guess is correct. I also found out about that woman just now. She is Princess Ning's most capable chief palace maid. Her name is Rose. She has known Li Wenhan for 4 years and privately agreed to marry him. Li Wenhan has always been able to repay the debts he owes from gambling outside in times of crisis. It must be all thanks to Rose. Since Rose serves Princess Ning, she must have had the opportunity to come into contact with some gold, silver, jewelry, and other things that Princess Ning doesn't often care about. I ordered people to follow Li Wenhan and found that he went to a pawn shop to pawn jewelry. I also found someone to get in touch with the pawn shop and learned that Li Wenhan used to pawn his things in that pawn shop. Qin Yining nodded when he heard this, and his eyes showed that he was deep in thought. Master Zhong didn't disturb him. He picked up the herbal tea and drank another bowl. Then he picked up the palm leaf fan on the carriage and fanned himself. Qin Yining waved the silk fan in her hand from time to time. After a while, Qin Yining smiled and asked shopkeeper Zhong, "Do you know what business Prince Ning and the Cao family have in the city?" Master Zhong asked in surprise, "Boss, why do you ask this?" "Both Prince Ning and the Cao family have a lot of business. If boss wants to know in detail, you have to organize it carefully." Qin Yining twirled the red bean bracelet in his fingers and said in a low voice, "Go investigate and see if there is any intersection between their businesses." "Boss, you want to find an opportunity to sow discord between their businesses?" Master Zhong asked with uncertainty. "Yes." Qin Yining nodded. "That's not very feasible." Master Zhong said sincerely, "Boss, there is an unwritten rule between all the noble families that do business in the city. If there is some small friction between the shops, it is between the servants. The masters won't get involved. Even if we go overboard, I'm afraid we won't be able to attract Prince Ning's attention." Qin Yining shook his head and said with a smile, "That's not entirely true. Right now, there are two important things. First, let the Cao family become arrogant and ruthlessly bully Prince Ning's businesses. It shouldn't be difficult to sow discord. Second, head shopkeeper, secretly contact Rose." As Qin Yining spoke, he lowered his voice even further and whispered a few words into Master Zhong's ear. Master Zhong's eyes widened as he listened. It was as if he couldn't believe it and was also as if he was scared. After a while, he said, "Boss, isn't this too risky? Rose has served the princess consort for a long time. If this matter is exposed, the consequences will be unthinkable. It doesn't matter. She wants to be loyal, but she hopes more that she and the one surnamed Li can survive. There is solid evidence at the pawn shop." Master Zhong thought about it carefully and found that this was indeed the case. "All right, then we'll do as boss says. I'll do it now. Boss, you can go home and wait for the news." Qin Yining smiled gratefully. "Thank you for your trouble, head shopkeeper. Don't mention it." Master Zhong got off the carriage and went to do the proper business with a slightly excited expression. Qin Yining called for Ji Yun and Bing Tang. The three of them returned to the Marquis Fu. Chapter 209. 10 days later. Prince Ning's mansion. Prince Ning looked at the pale-faced princess consort on the bed and frowned worriedly. "Princess consort, are you feeling better?" "Wang Yi, don't worry. I feel okay." Princess consort Ning's forehead was full of cold sweat. She covered her stomach with both hands and felt her intestines churning again. Her face changed. "I can't. I have to go to the toilet." Then she got off the bed in a panic. Rose, Bai Wei, and Ziwei, the three personal maids, hurriedly helped Princess Consort Ning to the bathroom at the back. Prince Ning's face was livid with anger. He punched hard on the Paulownia wooden table. "She's too arrogant. Rose, come and tell this king what happened today." Rose, who was in the bathroom, trembled and forced herself to calm down. She went to the bedroom and knelt down. She kowtowed and said, "Wang Yi, don't be angry." Prince Ning sat on the round-backed chair and punched the table. "Tell me." "Yes. Today, I went to the palace with Princess Consort to greet Her Majesty as usual. Her Majesty said that her new almond tea was good and wanted to give Princess Consort a bowl. Princess Consort didn't dare to refuse and ate it in front of her. Then she had a stomachache on the way back. Rose's palms were sweating and her face was pale. She forced herself to calm down. Calm down. Because if she failed this time, not only her, but also Li Wenhan's life would be lost. Prince Ning didn't doubt it at all. He grabbed the teapot on the table and threw it on the ground. The sharp sound of broken porcelain was particularly harsh. The servants in the room knelt down and kowtowed. "Wang Yi, don't be angry. What a good empress. What a good cow family. Aren't you looking down on me too much?" Prince Ning got up and walked around in anger. He scolded, It's just a small business conflict. This king was trampled on by that old man. That bitch cow dared to take the opportunity to hurt this king's princess consort. Does she think this king is dead? At this moment, Wang Fei held the palace maid's hand and walked out with a hunched back and shaking legs. Rose, who was kneeling on the ground, saw that Wang Yi had no intention of taking his anger out on her or suspecting her. She hurriedly got up to help Wang Fei lie back down. The princess consort's face had already turned green, and she was extremely weak. It had only been 4 hours since she had left the palace, but she had run around at least 10 times. No one would be able to endure such torment. Wang Fei had always been pampered and her body had always been very healthy. She rarely suffered from illness and naturally could not endure such great suffering. This sudden torment caused her face to turn green. She started to sob in grievance. Wang Yi, calm down. Don't get into a conflict with the empress because of this concubine. This concubine's grievance is nothing. How is it nothing? You are this king's princess consort. If the empress treats you like this, where does this king stand? Where is our Prince Ning's mansion? Irritated, Prince Ning put his hands on his waist and gasped for air, trying hard to hold back his anger. The Cao family has been domineering and arrogant for a long time. That Qin Meng is such an amazing person. That Cao family has almost treated his home as his own backyard. If he wants to break into someone's backyard, he will break into their backyard. If he wants to ransack someone's closet, he will ransack someone's closet. Cao family has taken advantage of Qin Meng's home, but if he thinks that this king is also a soft persimmon, then he is wrong. He turned around and angrily glared at the eunuch at the door. Where is the imperial physician? Why hasn't the imperial physician come yet? The eunuch trembled from the roar and said with a sad face, replying to Wang Yi, this servant has already gone to invite the imperial physician. But Cao family said that he has not been feeling well for the past 2 days. All the imperial physicians on duty have been invited to his home by Cao family. This servant still needs to find an imperial physician who is not on duty. When Ning Wang heard this, he was so angry that he kicked over a chair. Cao, I'll fuck your grandmother. The palace servants in the room were so scared that they did not dare to breathe. They all knelt down and curled up into a ball. The princess consort's expression changed and she trembled as she stood up. No, I still need to go. Seeing that the princess consort was being helped to the washroom, Prince Ning was so angry that his hair stood up. Without an imperial physician, you call a physician? Are you all dead? Do you still need this king to teach you this? What about the heir? What about the others? Their mother is sick, but they don't know how to take care of her. What kind of rules are these? Yes, this servant will go now. Wang Yi was so angry that the palace maids and eunuchs were so scared that they ran around like headless flies to call for help. Prince Ning had 3 sons and 1 daughter. His eldest son had been given to the emperor for adoption, but when the emperor had a crown prince, he had been sent back. Therefore, the heir's status was very awkward. However, the heir was still the princess consort's biological son. Now that the princess consort was sick, the heir was very worried. When he heard the news, he quickly called for the princess consort to come over. Second master, third master, and the unmarried Princess Jialan also rushed over. They were all in front of the princess consort's bed, caring for her well-being. Prince Ning's face was gloomy as he sat in the outer room, sulking. Not long after, the physician also came. After taking the princess consort's pulse, he was completely clueless. He was so scared that his face turned pale as he kowtowed to Wang Yi. The princess consort is most likely suffering from an acute illness. This old man has never seen this kind of illness before, so I don't dare to rashly prescribe a prescription. Wang Yi, you should hurry and call for an imperial physician with better medical skills. Acute illness? Acute illness, your grandmother. Prince Ning was so angry that he almost sent the physician flying with a kick. The princess consort was drugged. The physician was so scared that his face turned pale. His beard trembled as he said, Wang Yi, please calm down. This old man has never seen such a fierce medicine. What he meant was that he didn't know how to treat it, nor did he dare to treat it. He asked Wang Yi to find someone better. Although Prince Ning was dissolute and had a reputation for being tyrannical and lecherous, he still treated the princess consort with respect. At least the princess consort's position had been unshakable for many years. What's more, the princess consort was his woman. If anyone dared to bully the princess consort, it was clearly not taking him seriously. Today, the empress dared to find a chance to drug the princess consort when she entered the palace. Prince Ning's temper had reached its limit. What's more, the physician he wanted to invite had all been invited to his house by Guozhong Cao. While they were talking, the princess consort had already gone to the toilet twice. She was about to collapse. Prince Ning saw that the situation was really bad. He thought for a while and said, "Come, prepare the horse." "Yes." The servant didn't dare to ask more and hurriedly ran to prepare the horse for Prince Ning. Only Prince Ning's son was bold enough to ask, "Where is Wang Yi going?" He was now the Prince Ning's son and the adopted prince, so he could only address Prince Ning as Wang Yi. Prince Ning said in a deep voice, "I'm going to the family Qin." Prince Ning's son was shocked and said, "Wang Yi, you." Prince Ning glanced at the princess consort, whose face was pale and blue, as if she would die at any moment. He only said, "Take good care of the princess consort. This king will immediately find a physician." He then left the residence and galloped out. And Qin Yining was currently in his room. He was holding Bai as he leaned against the chaise lounge and read a book. Bai's furry paws were stepping on Qin Yining's stomach. It wasn't heavy, but it was a little itchy. Qin Yining couldn't help but touch Bai's round body as he read. Bing Tang, Song Lan, Ji Yun, and Qiu Lu were all sitting around the square table, doing needlework and chatting. The bedroom was filled with a peaceful and warm atmosphere. At this moment, a young maid's voice came from outside. "Fourth young lady, fourth young lady." Qin Yining looked up at the half-open window and asked the maid downstairs, "What's wrong?" "Prince Ning is here, but he didn't enter the residence. He's outside the residence now and says he wants to see Miss and Bing Tang. He's here." Qin Yining suddenly stood up. Bai, who had been carelessly forgotten by her, slid to the ground and fell on its butt. Qin Yining quickly picked up the little rabbit and made sure that Bai was fine. Only then did he relax and pass Bai to Qiu Lu. He turned around and instructed Bing Tang, "Come with me to take a look." "Yes. Miss, I'll go with you too," Ji Yun said. "Okay." The three of them went out of the bedroom and saw the girls next door and the people around them craning their necks to look around. Obviously, they had heard the girls' words and were curious about why Prince Ning came to Qin Yining. Meanwhile, someone quickly passed the news to Qin Huayuan, who was fishing by the fish pond. Qin Yining brought Bing Tang and Ji Yun to the entrance of the residence. Prince Ning was holding a horsewhip in his hand and standing beside a red horse with a frown on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. Qin Yining bowed. "Greetings, Wang Yi. May I know why Wang Yi is looking for me?" Prince Ning saw Bing Tang beside Qin Yining and said, "To be honest, the princess consort is unwell and we can't get an imperial physician. This king is here to ask Miss Tang for help." Qin Yining looked surprised and asked knowingly, "Why can't we get an imperial physician? What's wrong with the princess consort?" At the mention of this, Prince Ning became angry and said angrily, "That son of a bitch Cao Bingzhong. He said that he's sick and asked all the imperial physicians to leave. This king thinks that he's doing this on purpose." At this point, Prince Ning looked at Qin Yining and said in a low voice, "Today, the princess consort entered the palace to pay respects to the empress, but she was drugged. This king has asked a physician to examine her, but he said that there's no cure. Unfortunately, we can't get an imperial physician with great medical skills to come. So, this king came to find Miss Tang." Qin Yining had a look of disbelief. Cao Guozhong actually knows how to. Okay, Bing Tang, quickly go back and get your medicine box. Ji Yun, quickly ask someone to bring a horse here. Saving people is like putting out a fire. We don't have time to take a carriage. Let's ride a horse. It'll be faster. Yes. Ji Yun and Bing Tang obeyed and rushed into the residence. Prince Ning was very satisfied with Qin Yining's tactfulness. In addition, his family Qin had been harassed badly by Cao Guozhong today, so he felt that they were in the same boat. He couldn't help but curse. Cao Guozhong is too arrogant. He ordered the empress to drug this king's princess consort and used an excuse to invite all the imperial physicians. He clearly wants the princess consort to die. Qin Yining asked doubtfully, but why is he doing this? What reason does Cao Guozhong have to make things difficult for you? You're Wang Yi. Wang Yi. Cao Guozhong doesn't care about this king at all. A few days ago, there was only a small conflict in business. He actually used such a vicious method and used the empress's power to suppress others. The more Prince Ning thought about it, the angrier he became. He wished that he could just take a knife and kill his way to the Cao family. Qin Yining pursed his lips and looked like he was in a dilemma. He didn't want to make any comments. Prince Ning didn't expect Qin Yining to say anything. He didn't want to argue with her and just sulked. Not long after, Ji Yun and Bing Tang came one after another. The three of them got on their horses and followed Prince Ning to the Prince Ning's residence at full speed. Along the way, Qin Yining carefully controlled the silver-white colt. Only then did she feel relieved. Her plan was supposed to wait for a few days. She wanted to catch a flaw in the Cao family and use the princess consort's matter to cause conflict between Prince Ning and the Cao family. She wanted to give the Cao family a double blow. Unexpectedly, Cao Guozhong fell ill and called all the imperial physicians on duty to the Cao family. Qin Yining had instructed Master Zhong to pay attention to the Cao family's movements. As soon as she learned that Cao Guozhong fell ill and all the imperial physicians were transferred away, she immediately brought forward the plan. She asked Rose to add the laxative in the almond tea rewarded by the demon empress. Today, even if Prince Ning found an imperial physician, no one could cure the laxative made by Bing Tang because it had to be combined with the Tang family's unique acupuncture technique. In the end, Prince Ning still asked them to come to the Cao family as a last resort. In this way, she had already kicked him in the head. What she wanted was not to kneel down and cry. She wanted to use this matter to create estrangement between the Cao family and Prince Ning. She wanted Prince Ning to ask Bing Tang for help. She wanted the conflict between Prince Ning and the Cao family to be irreconcilable and make Prince Ning take sides. Perhaps she was too despicable. Qin Yining was not without guilt. However, she had no choice but to let Princess Consort Ning suffer a little. Fortunately, the laxative only made her have diarrhea and wouldn't kill her. When they returned to the Prince Ning's residence, Qin Yining naturally followed Prince Ning to the bedroom with Ji Yun and Bing Tang. At this time, Princess Consort Ning was about to faint from diarrhea. Qin Yining went to the bed and bowed to Princess Consort Ning before retreating to the side and standing with Prince Ning's son, daughter-in-law, and Princess Jialan. Bing Tang quickly went forward, put down his medical box, and checked Princess Consort Ning's pulse. Princess Consort Ning was a beautiful woman in her early 20s. She was very curious when she saw Qin Yining. However, because she was brought back by Prince Ning and there was a young girl in her early teens treating the princess consort, the princess consort was even more confused. Princess Jialan had met Qin Yining once before. She looked at Bing Tang and asked curiously, "Miss Qin's maid knows medicine?" Princess Jialan's words made everyone aware of Qin Yining's identity. Qin Yining said in a low voice, "Miss Tang inherited her father's business and has excellent medical skills." After hearing the words Miss Tang, everyone understood Bing Tang's identity. After all, everyone in the noble family knew that Qin Yining had taken an imperial physician Tang's orphan. Everyone quieted down and looked expectantly at Bing Tang. Bing Tang carefully checked Princess Consort Ning's pulse and checked her complexion and tongue. Then, she took out a needle and quickly inserted it into Princess Consort Ning's pulse. Prince Ning saw her inserting the needle and asked, "Sister Meng, can you tell what kind of poison Princess Consort Ning is poisoned with?" Bing Tang nodded and said, "Wang Yi, Princess Consort Ning's poison isn't a poison. It's just a modified laxative from the palace. Although it won't kill her, it will make her feel uncomfortable for several days. It's not impossible to cure. Once she takes the prescription and uses my needles, she'll be fine." When Prince Ning heard this, he let out a long sigh of relief. After Princess Consort Ning was inserted with the needle, she felt that her stomach didn't hurt anymore and didn't want to go to the toilet. Her complexion looked much better and she smiled gratefully at the young girl in front of her. Bingtang felt a little guilty. After all, she was the one who made the medicine. Therefore, she smiled obediently at Princess Consort Ning. Then, she went back to write down the room and ordered the servants to prepare the medicine. Chapter 210. What a vicious woman. She dares to come after harming the princess consort. Ning Wang gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. Qin Yining's face was deathly pale as she held onto the back of a round chair, as if she had been frightened by the empress' sudden appearance. Only then did everyone remember that there was a grudge between Qin Yining and the empress. Previously, the two imperial concubines in the palace had been cooked by the empress. It was said that the empress had wanted to eat this Miss Qin from the very beginning. Seeing such a delicate young girl frightened like this, everyone couldn't help but feel pity for her. Princess Jialan pulled on Qin Yining's hand and asked, "Miss Qin, are you all right?" Qin Yining's face was deathly pale as she shook her head. I'm fine. Perhaps it's because it's too hot outside. Should I go and rest for a while?" Qin Yining looked inquiringly at Ning Wang. If she stayed here and let the empress see her communicating with Ning Wang, it would certainly speed up the conflict between Ning Wang and the empress. However, although Ning Wang was a lecherous person, he wasn't an idiot. Right now, he was angry and didn't understand. Once he calmed down, it would be easy for him to discover that she had purposely stayed behind to avoid the empress. Thus, she gave the right to decide to Ning Wang. Ning Wang thought for a moment and said, "Jialan, help Miss Qin to your room to rest for a while. You two sisters can also talk." His words implied that he tacitly approved of the relationship between Qin Yining and Princess Jialan. "I was just about to talk to Big Sister Qin." Princess Jialan supported Qin Yining's arm and smiled. "Big Sister came here to save my mother and got caught in the heat. I don't know how to thank you. Big Sister Princess, there's no need to be so polite." Qin Yining declined with a smile. Because they didn't know who was older and who was younger, they both called each other Big Sister. The two walked out hand in hand. Ji Yun walked with Princess Jialan's palace maids and mamas. The heir said, "Wang Yi, let's go welcome the empress first. We shouldn't make her wait too long." Ning Wang knew that his son was right, but he was so angry that he was dizzy. He really wanted to kill the demon empress, so how could he still want to receive her? She harmed this king's princess consort, and she still wants this king to escort her. At this time, Qin Yining had just descended the stairs with Princess Jialan when he saw a slim figure in red walk in from the main entrance. She was surrounded by a group of people. Looking up, who else could it be but the empress? Qin Yining secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It wasn't that she didn't want to leave, but that the demon empress had come uninvited and coincidentally bumped into them when she entered the courtyard. If Ning Wang wanted to blame someone, he would blame the demon empress for being too careless and walking around the residence as she pleased. When Princess Jialan saw the empress, her expression changed. She quietly let go of Qin Yining's hand and stepped forward to greet her. "Greetings to the empress." Qin Yining seemed to be scared out of her wits. She froze for a moment before kneeling down as well. "This subject greets the empress." As the empress walked, her red pomegranate dress swayed in the wind. The golden buyao on her peony bun swayed with her steps, making her seem noble and arrogant, bright and luxurious. Glancing at Qin Yining and Princess Jialan who were kneeling on the ground, the empress said in a lazy and gentle voice, "Oh, I didn't expect the young miss of the family Qin to have such a wide range of connections. She's close friends with Princess Jialan? How come I didn't know that you two were so close?" Princess Jialan lowered her head. The hand hidden under the embroidered handkerchief clenched into a fist. The one who had been harmed was her mother, and this arrogant woman in front of her was the main culprit. How could she not hate her? No matter how steady Princess Jialan was, she couldn't help but be angry. She coldly retorted, "The empress is in charge of the harem. She has to deal with a myriad of affairs every day. How could she know everything? If she knew everything, wouldn't she be a god?" She was implying that the Princess Jialan shouldn't think of herself as a god. If she continued to be so arrogant, She would become an immortal sooner or later. The Empress sneered, "I didn't expect the princess to be so eloquent after not seeing her for a few days. It seems that you're a bad influence. Befriending an old fox's little fox, you should be careful not to be schemed against." Princess Jalan was so angry that her entire body trembled. Qin Yining lowered his head. He was hesitating whether or not to speak when he heard Prince Ning's voice. "No matter if it's an old fox or a little fox, this king looks cute. He's better than a 1,000-year-old fox spirit who brings disaster to the country." Prince Ning led the crown prince, second master, and third master to the corridor and bowed to the Empress. Although he was polite, everyone could tell that he was scolding the Empress when he said 1,000-year-old fox spirit. Legend had it that the Emperor of Xin, Shang, and Ju had provoked Nuer because of his lust. That was why a 1,000-year-old fox spirit descended to the mortal world to seduce the emperor and bring chaos to the Shang dynasty. And now, it seemed like the current situation of Great Yang dynasty matched with the legends in a few aspects. Back then, when the emperor ascended to the goddess temple and worshipped the statue of Lady Mother of the Chariot, he met the empress who was going out to play. The emperor regarded the empress as a celestial being. From then on, he brought her into the palace and doted on her to the heavens. He did not hide the fact that the two of them had expressed their love in front of the statue of Lady Mother of the Chariot. Later, the emperor became more and more muddle-headed and tyrannical. He obeyed the empress's every word and persecuted the meritorious officials and good people. The empress was even more ruthless. It wasn't like she hadn't eaten human flesh and drank human blood before. It almost coincided with the incident of Shangju and Deji. There were many such legends outside, but not many of them reached the Empress's ears. This was because Prince Ning was bold enough to say it in front of the Empress. The Empress was so angry that her face turned pale. She said coldly, "It seems that I was wrong to come today. I heard that you're old and weak. You'll fall ill when you come out of the palace to greet me. I thought that you're my sisters-in-law, so I took the time to come and see you. I didn't expect Prince Ning's mansion to treat me like this. There's no need to trouble the Empress." Prince Ning saw that the Empress was so arrogant. How could she come to visit a sick person? She was obviously drugged and came to watch the show. She said that the Empress was old. Wasn't she mocking him for being old too? Prince Ning wasn't one to suffer losses. He immediately retorted, "But time is unforgiving. Who can be old or young? The Empress is also old. It's better for you to cultivate your body and mind well so that you can make imperial brother like you. It's better for you not to stretch your hands too far. Otherwise, you'll be chopped off. You." The Empress was so angry that her beautiful eyes widened. She glared at Prince Ning. Prince Ning didn't want to be outdone. He didn't invite the Empress to sit, but he also didn't want to give in. The Empress was full of anger and grievance. Her tears were about to fall. When she saw Qin Yining after entering the palace, the Empress started to suspect whether Prince Ning was colluding with the Qin Huayuan family. Now that Prince Ning was acting strangely and didn't respect her identity, the Empress was even more certain. What angered her the most was that he called her a 1,000-year-old fox spirit. She met Tian Jizzi by chance. When they first met, Tian Jizzi didn't know her identity. When he saw her, he read her fortune. He said that she was a fairy descending to the mortal world, a true dragon's treasure. He also said that she was rich and noble, with purple energy covering her body and holding the world in her hands. At the time, she thought that Tian Jizzi was really as magical as the legends said. His fortune was really accurate. But the more time passed, the more she felt that something was wrong. At least when she occasionally calmed down, she felt that her fate was similar to Dag's. However, she seriously bribed Tian Jizzi. She thought that it might be a coincidence. After all, Tian Jizzi's fortune was good. She didn't think that this kind of rumor wasn't just spread outside. Now, even a brute like Prince Ning dared to say it in front of her. "I didn't think that Prince Ning would treat me like this. Prince Ning being so disrespectful to me is also disrespectful to the Emperor. Could it be that you want to rebel? The Empress is the Empress. Women should be in charge of the harem. How shameless do you think you are to speak on behalf of my imperial brother? Who do you think you are?" You're a part-time vulgar person. This old man has been vulgar for more than a day or two. I didn't invite the Empress to see. The Empress came to this king's palace to flaunt her power and abuse her power. Do you think that I, Yuchi Jinming, am a soft persimmon that can be bullied by others? If it doesn't work, then let's go judge in front of Imperial Brother. This king wants to see if Imperial Brother will protect this king, his own younger brother. The Empress was so angry that tears welled up in her eyes. In the end, she didn't continue to shout in anger. Because she had followed the Emperor for many years, she knew that the Emperor and Prince Ning had a good relationship. If she went to the Emperor and had the Emperor deal with Prince Ning, she might not succeed. After all, their cow family was also at a critical juncture. It wasn't good to cause trouble. The Empress gritted her teeth and finally left in a huff. She only thought that one day, she would deal with Prince Ning. Seeing the Empress leave in anger, the heir said worriedly, "Wang Yi, I'm afraid this isn't good." The Empress' words have a lot of weight in the Emperor's ears. If we do this, won't we completely fall out with him? Fuck his mother, this old man is afraid of that slut. She's already bullying this old man, and you want this old man to endure? Prince Ning was born in the army, so when he cursed, his voice was as loud as a bell. He didn't care if the Empress was far away or if she could hear him. He kicked a potted kumquat plant in the corridor to the ground. The ceramic flower pot fell to the ground and made a loud noise. The soil and flowers scattered all over the ground. Qin Yining and Princess Jialan supported each other as they stood up. Ji Yun carefully stood by Qin Yining's side. Qin Yining thought for a bit and said, "Wang Yi, this young woman will take her leave first. Bing Tang will stay in your palace for the time being to treat Princess Consort. When Princess Consort gets better, this young woman will come to pay her respects." Prince Ning nodded and said, "Thank you for your trouble today, Miss Qin. Come, send Miss Qin out." "I don't dare." After exchanging pleasantries, Qin Yining left with Ji Yun. Looking at Qin Yining's back, the heir whispered to Prince Ning, "Wang Yi, don't you think there's something strange about today's matter? After all, the conflict between the family Qin and the cow family isn't new. How could there be such a coincidence?" Prince Ning glanced at the heir and narrowed his eyes as he looked at Qin Yining's back. "If it's really a trap, I don't know if this is the old fox's trap or the young fox's trap." Qin Yining and Ji Yun left the prince's residence and rode back to family Qin. At the same time, someone from the prince's residence reported, "Wang Yi, Marquis Anping requests an audience." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.